I stood in my new living room, keys still warm in my hand, when my phone buzzed. "Sweetie, perfect timing. We need to discuss Emma's move-in date." My mother's voice carried that familiar certainty. "What move?" I asked. "To your new house, of course. Next month. Emma, Brad, and the kids need the space. You understand?" The silence stretched as I stared at unpacked boxes, realizing my family somehow knew about the house I bought in secret just 7 days ago. 6 months earlier, I sat at my desk at Morrison Investments, staring at my savings account balance on the computer screen. 4 years of sacrifice had led to this moment. 4 years of saying no to happy hours, skipping the annual Vegas trips with college friends, and perfecting the art of making 20 different meals from rice beans and whatever vegetables were on sale that week. My cubicle mate Jennifer had just returned from her 3rd European vacation of the year, spreading photos across her desk while complaining about the exchange rate. I smiled and nodded, not mentioning that I'd spent my weekend reviewing mortgage pre-approval documents and researching first-time homebuyer programs. The decision to keep my home purchase secret hadn't come lightly. I loved my family, but 29 years of experience had taught me that my achievements somehow always became opportunities for my older sister Emma. When I got my scholarship to State University, the family dinner celebrating my acceptance turned into a discussion about how I could help tutor Emma's kids when they reached high school. When I landed my job at the investment firm, my promotion dinner became a strategy session for managing Emma's debt. "Family helps family," my mother would say usually while explaining why my success meant I had greater obligations to contribute. Emma had married young, had 3 kids by 25, and somehow every financial struggle they faced became a family emergency that required my involvement. The house hunting process became my private joy. Every Saturday morning, while my family thought I was at the gym or running errands, I met with my realtor, Patricia Summers. She was a sharp woman in her 50s who understood discretion after I explained my situation. "Honey, I've seen it all," Patricia had said during our first meeting. "You wouldn't believe how many clients need to keep purchases quiet from family members. Your business is your business." We looked at 15 houses over 3 months. I wanted something modest but mine. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a small yard, and most importantly, a home office, where I could work on the freelance consulting projects that supplemented my salary. The winner sat on Maple Street in a quiet neighborhood 25 minutes from my parents' house. Far enough for privacy, close enough to avoid suspicion. The day I made the offer, my hands shook as I signed the papers. Patricia squeezed my shoulder. "This is a big moment, Cassandra. You should be proud." I was proud, but I was also terrified. Not of the mortgage or the responsibility, but of what would happen when my family found out. Still, I pushed forward. The inspection went well, requiring only minor repairs. The appraisal came in right at purchase price. My loan approval sailed through thanks to my excellent credit and stable employment history. Closing day arrived on a Thursday morning in March. I'd taken a personal day telling my boss I had a medical appointment. I told my mother the same thing when she called, asking if I could pick Emma's kids up from school. "Can't Emma do it?" I'd asked, already knowing the answer. "You know she has that interview at the mall," my mother had replied. "Besides, you're just going to the doctor. You'll be done by afternoon." My appointment might run long. I'd lied, guilt twisting my stomach. Better ask someone else. The closing attorney's office smelled like coffee and new carpet. I signed my name dozens of times, each signature bringing me closer to a dream I'd harbored since childhood. A space entirely my own, where my decisions were final and my boundaries were walls, not suggestions. "Congratulations, Miss Thompson," the attorney said, sliding the keys across the table. "You're officially a homeowner." I held those keys like precious gems, feeling their weight in my palm. The mortgage payment would take 1/3 of my income, but I'd run the numbers hundreds of times. With my freelance work and careful budgeting, I could manage it comfortably. More importantly, I could manage it alone. Walking to my car keys clutched in my hand, I nearly dropped them when I spotted a familiar silver Honda in the parking lot. My uncle Marcus drove the same model, but thousands of people drove silver Hondas, I told myself. The closing attorney's office was in a busy commercial district. It was nothing more than coincidence. Still unease prickled at my neck as I drove to my new house for the first time as its owner. I'd been so careful. All my documents went to my office. I'd used a different bank than my family. I'd even bought a cheap burner phone specifically for house hunting communications to ensure no shared family phone plans could reveal my activity. But as I pulled into my new driveway, that worry evaporated. This was mine. Every sacrifice, every skipped meal, every declined invitation had led to this moment. I sat in my car for 10 minutes just staring at the modest brick ranch that represented my independence. Tomorrow, I'd start moving my things. I'd already arranged to rent a truck, recruited 2 coworkers to help, and bought pizza and beer as payment. My apartment lease ran until the end of the month, giving me time to move gradually without arousing suspicion. For now, though, I walked through my empty house, my footsteps echoing on hardwood floors. I stood in each room imagining furniture placement color schemes, the life I'd build within these walls. The master bedroom would hold the queen bed I'd had my eye on for months. The second bedroom would become my office, complete with the standing desk I'd always wanted. The third bedroom would be a guest room available for friends who needed a place to crash. Friends I'd choose to invite. As sunset painted my new kitchen in golden light, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of my accomplishment. Cassandra Thompson had bought a house, alone, without family drama or obligations or compromises. If only I'd known that my carefully guarded secret had already been exposed, that plans were already in motion that would threaten everything I'd worked to achieve. But that Thursday evening, standing in my empty house, I felt nothing but hope. 7 days after closing, I was knee-deep in unpacking when my phone rang. My mother's contact photo, a picture from last Christmas where she wore the sweater I'd bought her, filled the screen. I almost didn't answer, wanting to finish organizing my kitchen in peace, but daughter guilt won out. "Hi, Mom," I said, wedging the phone between my shoulder and ear while I unwrapped dishes. "Cassandra, perfect timing. We need to discuss Emma's move-in date." The plate I was holding slipped, saved only by quick reflexes. "I'm sorry, what?" "Emma's moved to your new house. We're thinking the 1st of next month gives everyone enough time to prepare. Brad can arrange the moving truck, and your father's already spoken to contractors about the modifications." My legs suddenly felt weak. I sank onto a kitchen stool, abandoning the dishes entirely. "Mom, I think there's been a misunderstanding. What house are you talking about?" "Don't be silly, dear. The house on Maple Street, the one you just bought. Really, Cassandra, we're family. Did you think we wouldn't find out?" The room spun. My carefully constructed privacy shattered with casual certainty. "How did you know?" "Oh, sweetie." She laughed, that tinkling sound that usually preceded disappointment in my choices. "Marcus works at Premier Title Company. He processed your paperwork. He called us immediately, of course. We're so proud of you for thinking of your sister's needs when you made such a big purchase." "Marcus told you." My voice came out smaller than intended. Uncle Marcus, who'd bounced me on his knee as a child, who'd slipped me $20 bills on birthdays with a wink and a smile. Uncle Marcus, who'd apparently decided my privacy meant nothing when family was involved. Of course he did. Family looks out for family. We've all been discussing it for weeks now. Your father and I even drove by last Tuesday, using Marcus's key access, of course. The house is perfect for Emma's family. That second living area can easily convert to a playroom, and the backyard is ideal for the children. "You went into my house." Rage built in my chest, hot and unfamiliar, without my permission, using insider access from the title company. Permission. My mother's voice shifted, taking on that wounded quality she'd perfected over the years. "Since when do I need permission to ensure my daughters are taken care of? Really, Cassandra, this attitude is exactly why we didn't tell you we knew. You get so defensive about helping your sister." "This isn't about being defensive." I stood pacing my kitchen. "This is about boundaries, about privacy, about the fact that I bought this house with my own money for myself." "For yourself." The disapproval dripped through the phone. A single woman doesn't need 3 bedrooms. Meanwhile, your sister's family of 5 is crammed into that tiny rental, barely making ends meet. I raised you better than this selfishness. It's not selfish to want my own space, to want the home I paid for to be mine. The home you could only afford because you don't have children to support, she countered. Your privilege comes with responsibility, Cassandra. We've already discussed this as a family. Everyone agrees Emma needs this more. Everyone who's everyone. Your father, Aunt Patricia. Uncle Thomas, Grandma Rose before she passed, God rest her soul, would be ashamed of this selfishness. We've all made sacrifices for family. When your father lost his job 15 years ago, did his brother not help? When Emma had complications with Jaden's birth, did you not contribute to the medical bills? That's different. I protested, though the familiar guilt was already creeping in. Those were emergencies. This is my home. And Emma facing homelessness isn't an emergency. She's not facing homelessness. She has a rental. For now, my mother's voice turned ominous. But their lease is up soon, and with rent prices these days. Well, we assumed you'd purchased with them in mind. Why else buy such a large house? Because I wanted space. Because I work from home sometimes. Because maybe someday I'll have my own family. Someday, she scoffed. While your sister's family needs help today, really Cassandra at your age still talking about someday, Emma had 3 children by your age. The comparison stung as intended. Emma made her choices. I've made mine. Yes, and your choices led you to a good job and financial stability. Blessings meant to be shared. Your father's already gotten quotes from contractors. Did you know adding a small kitchenette to the basement would only cost $8,000? That way, you'd have your privacy upstairs while Emma's family has their own space below. It's the perfect solution. Mom, stop. Just stop. I pressed my palm against my forehead, feeling a migraine building. No one is moving into my house. No one is adding kitchenettes. This is not happening. It most certainly is happening. I've already told Emma. The children are so excited. Sophia's been researching the schools in your district. Did you know Maple Street Elementary has an excellent gifted program, and little Jaden can finally have his own room instead of sharing with his sisters? You told Emma before talking to me. What was there to discuss? The decision is obvious. Your father's already scheduled contractors to come by next Monday for estimates. We'll need to add that second kitchen, convert the garage to Brad's workshop, and possibly extend the back deck for entertaining. No one is entering my property without my permission. I'll call the police if I have to. Silence stretched across the line, the kind that preceded major guilt trips. When my mother spoke again, her voice was ice. You would call the police on your own family, on your father who worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over your head, growing up. This is what education does, makes children forget where they came from. I haven't forgotten anything. I remember every sacrifice, which is why I've been helping Emma financially for years. But this house is mine. Yours. She repeated the word like it tasted bitter. Such an American concept, this obsession with ownership. In our family, we share. But fine, Cassandra. Live in your big house alone. When Emma's on the street with those babies, that's on your conscience? She won't be on the street. She and Brad both work. They can find another rental. With their credit, after Brad's medical bills from the accident, you know they can't qualify for anything decent. But sure, protect your investment while your nephews and niece suffer. The medical bills. Of course she'd bring those up. Brad's motorcycle accident 3 years ago, the one that happened while he was driving without insurance, trying to show off for his buddies. I'd contributed $5,000 to those bills money that could have gone toward my house down payment. I've helped with those bills. I've helped with groceries, school supplies, Christmas presents. When does it end? When family doesn't need help anymore, she said simply. But clearly you've outgrown such concepts. Very well. I'll tell Emma she needs to find somewhere else to live. I'll explain that Aunt Cassandra's money is more important than family. I hope those empty bedrooms bring you joy. Mom, please don't twist this. I need to go. Your father's home, and I need to tell him his daughter cares more about property values than blood relations. Goodbye, Cassandra. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, watching the call timer freeze at 14 minutes and 32 seconds. In less than 15 minutes, my mother had taken my proudest achievement and transformed it into a source of shame. I walked to my living room window, looking out at the quiet street I'd chosen so carefully. 3 houses down, children played on bikes, their laughter carrying on the spring breeze. Normal families living normal lives where boundaries existed and privacy was respected. My phone buzzed with texts, the family group chat exploding with activity. Emma's message sat at the top. "Thanks for nothing, sis. Hope your empty house keeps you warm at night." Below it, Aunt Patricia, shocked and disappointed. "This isn't how we raised you." Uncle Thomas, "Your mother's in tears, happy." I turned off my phone, unwilling to read more. The boxes around me, which had represented new beginnings an hour ago, now felt like evidence of my selfishness. But underneath the guilt lay something stronger: anger. White-hot rage at the violation of my privacy, the assumption of my compliance, the theft of my joy. They'd been in my house, walking through rooms I hadn't even slept in yet, planning renovations to accommodate someone else's family, spending my money in their minds before I'd even unpacked my first box. I thought about calling a lawyer, then dismissed it. What would I say? My uncle, who works at a title company, told my family about my legal purchase. My parents entered my property without breaking in. The violations were ethical, not legal. But the contractors, that was different. I grabbed a notepad, jotting down plans. First thing Monday, I'd change the locks, install security cameras, put up no trespassing signs, make it crystal clear that this house had one owner and she wasn't accepting roommates. The guilt would come in waves, I knew. Years of conditioning didn't disappear overnight. But as I stood in my living room, I made a decision. This house represented more than shelter. It was my declaration of independence, and I'd defend it, family or not. 3 days after my mother's phone call, I was installing new deadbolts when a minivan pulled into my driveway. Through the peephole, I watched Emma emerge, followed by her 3 children. She walked with the confidence of someone who belonged here, already pointing out features to her kids. "See, Sophia? That window would be perfect for your reading nook." Emma's voice carried through the door. "And Jaden, check out that big tree, perfect for a tire swing." I opened the door before she could ring the bell, keeping the chain lock engaged. "Emma, what are you doing here?" "Seriously." She rolled her eyes, a gesture unchanged since our teenage years. "Open the door, Cass. It's ridiculous talking through a crack like I'm some stranger. Considering you showed up uninvited to a house you've never been welcome to, I'd say precautions are reasonable." "Aunt Cassie." 7-year-old Mia waved enthusiastically. "Is this really going to be our new house? It's so big." My heart twisted. The children were innocent in this mess, but their presence was clearly calculated. Emma knew I'd never be harsh in front of them. "Why don't you kids go play in the front yard?" Emma suggested sweetly. "Stay where I can see you. Aunt Cassie and I need to talk about boring adult stuff." As they scattered across my lawn, I noticed Jaden immediately testing the strength of my porch railing, while the twins started picking flowers from the bed I'd just planted. "The locks are new," Emma observed. "Kind of paranoid, don't you think this neighborhood seems safe enough?" "The locks are necessary, as is this conversation happening on the porch." She sighed dramatically. "Fine, we'll do this your way. Brad's parking the truck. We figured we'd measure rooms today, get a sense of the space." "Brad's here too." I craned my neck to see a U-Haul turning the corner. "You brought a moving truck to my house." "Just for measuring furniture dimensions. Brad's very particular about making sure everything fits properly." She pulled out her phone, scrolling through photos. "See, I've already got ideas. This Pinterest board has the perfect color scheme for the kids' bathroom. Ocean theme, very soothing." "Emma, you're not moving in." She looked up from her phone, tilting her head with practiced confusion. "Mom said you were just having a moment, that once you thought about it rationally, you'd realize this makes sense. What makes sense is me living in the house I bought. Right, and you will. Upstairs. We've already discussed it. Brad and I take the main floor with the kids. You get the entire upper level. It's actually more space than your apartment if you think about it. Brad approached tool belt jangling around his waist. He'd gained weight since I'd last seen him, his contractor's tan stark against his white shirt. Cassie, the lady of the manor. He spread his arms wide as if expecting a hug I didn't offer. This place has good bones. That garage has potential. Workshop, maybe a small apartment eventually. Smart investment. An investment I made for myself. Come on now. Brad's smile had an edge. We're family. No need for this mine and yours stuff. Emma told me about the basement idea. I could probably do that kitchenette myself, save you thousands. I'm not adding a kitchenette. Sweet yourself, but shared kitchens get complicated with kids. Sophia's got that dairy allergy and Jaden's in a phase where he only eats orange foods. He chuckled like we were sharing a parenting moment. Kids, right? I wouldn't know. Emma's face tightened. No, you wouldn't. Which is exactly why this house is too much for one person. Do you know what our rental is like? 2 bedrooms. 1 bathroom that's growing black mold the landlord won't fix. Jaden sleeps in a closet. Cass. A literal closet we converted. Then report the landlord, force repairs, find a better rental. With what money you think decent places just appear? Everything requires first month, last month security deposits. Credit checks we can't pass because of Brad's medical bills. Medical bills from an uninsured motorcycle accident, I pointed out. Brad's face reddened. That was 3 years ago. How long are you people going to hold that over my head? You people? I raised an eyebrow. You mean the family members who paid those bills? Aunt Cassie. Sophia appeared at the porch steps, her 13-year-old face serious. Mom said I could have the room with the built-in bookshelves. Is that okay? Emma smiled triumphantly. She's already got it all planned out. Straight A student, this one. Needs a quiet space to study. That's wonderful, Sophia, but that room is my office. You have an office at work, Emma countered. Sophia's education should come first. My home office where I do freelance consulting that pays for this house. Must be nice, Brad muttered, having multiple income streams while some of us scramble for overtime. Mia ran up, clutching a handful of my newly planted marigolds. For you, Aunt Cassie, to say thank you for our new house. I accepted the destroyed flower soil dropping onto my porch. Sweetie, this isn't... Mom, Jaden called from the tree. This branch is perfect for a swing. Can we put one up today? Emma was already moving toward him. We'll have to ask Aunt Cassie nicely. Maybe if she sees how happy it would make you... I followed her onto the lawn, aware of neighbors watching this spectacle. Mrs. Chen next door pretended to water plants that didn't need it, while across the street, the Johnsons paused their driveway basketball game. Emma, stop. You're confusing the kids. She whirled on me, dropping her sweet act. I'm confusing them. You're the one destroying their hope for a decent home. Do you know what I told them? That Aunt Cassie loves them so much, she bought a house big enough for everyone. That finally they'd have their own rooms, a yard, a good school. You lied to them. I believed in family, stupid me thinking my successful sister would share her good fortune. She gestured at the house. Look at this place. You could fit 3 families here. It's a 3-bedroom ranch, not a mansion. It's a palace compared to what we have, but sure hoard it all for yourself. Just remember this selfishness when you're old and alone. Brad had wandered to my backyard gate, peering over. Decent-sized yard. Needs work, though. I could build a playset, maybe add a deck. Increase property values. Brad stopped planning renovations to my property. He turned his expression darkening. Your property, your house, your money. You sound like every other privileged person stepping on working families. I work 60 hours a week for my privilege. Behind a desk, he scoffed. Try real work sometime, see how far that gets you. Real work like the job you lost last month. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Emma gasped. How did you... We haven't told anyone that... Brad's face went from red to purple. Been spying on us, checking up to make sure we're worthy of your help. Mom mentioned it, I admitted, when she called asking for grocery money, which you refused to send. Emma's eyes filled with tears. On cue, as always. Your own niece and nephews going hungry, but God forbid you help. I sent $500 last month and $300 the month before. Pennies to you. She was shouting now, ensuring the entire neighborhood heard. Do you know what daycare costs, what growing kids eat? That money barely covered a week. Then budget better, or better yet, Brad could find stable employment. Brad stepped toward me, fists clenched. Watch your mouth! Is that a threat on my own property? I pulled out my phone. Please give me a reason to call the police. Mom. The twins ran over, sensing tension. Why is everyone yelling? Emma gathered them close, the perfect picture of maternal protection. No one's yelling babies. Aunt Cassie's just stressed. Moving is hard, and she's not used to sharing. I'm not moving, and neither are you. Sophia had been quiet throughout the exchange, but now she spoke. I already told my friends about the new house, posted about it online. Everyone's excited, I'll finally have my own room. The manipulation was masterful. Emma had weaponized her children's hopes against me, ensuring maximum guilt. Then I'm sorry your mother lied to you. That was cruel of her. Cruel. Emma's voice hit a pitch that made dogs bark. Cruel is having everything while your family struggles. Cruel is empty bedrooms while children sleep in closets. Jaden doesn't sleep in a closet, I said firmly. He has a small room. You're being dramatic. Aunt Cassie. Mia tugged on my shirt, tears streaming. Don't you want us here? I knelt to her level, my heart breaking. Sweetie, I love you, but this is my house where I live. You have your own house with Mommy and Daddy. A dump, Emma spat, with cockroaches and mold and violence on every corner. But sure, send us back there while you enjoy your suburban paradise. Your rental is in a decent neighborhood. Stop exaggerating. Mom says we're moving in next month, Jaden announced. I already told my teacher. I stood slowly, the full scope of Emma's presumption hitting me. You told their schools. The district needed our new address for transfers. The commute from our current place was killing us, 40 minutes each way. Here they could walk. You used my address for school registration. My voice shook. That's fraud. That's illegal. It's practical planning, Brad interjected. The kids deserve decent education. You're going to deny them that, too. I'm denying them nothing. Their education is your responsibility, not mine. Emma laughed bitterly. Easy to say when you don't have kids, when you've never had to choose between gas money and lunch money, when your biggest worry is which color to paint your empty rooms. My biggest worry is currently trespassing relatives who won't accept no for an answer. Trespassing. Brad's voice went dangerously quiet. We're trespassing by visiting family. Yes, you weren't invited. You're not welcome. And if you don't leave now, I'm calling the police. Emma gathered her children dramatically. Come on, kids. Aunt Cassie doesn't want us here. Remember this moment, when family meant less than property lines. That's not fair, and you know it. Fair. She whirled at the minivan. Was it fair when I had 3 kids by 25 while you partied through college? Was it fair when pregnancy complications destroyed my career prospects while you climbed corporate ladders? Was it fair that being a good mother meant sacrificing everything while you saved money? We made different choices. Choices. She laughed manically, like getting pregnant at 19 was a choice, like Brad's accident was a choice, like being born into a family that helps each other was a choice. Oh, wait, apparently that last one is negotiable. Brad loaded the kids into the van, each child staring at me with wounded eyes. Sophia wouldn't look at me at all, typing furiously on her phone, likely updating her friends about the house situation. This isn't over, Emma said quietly as she climbed into the passenger seat. You may have bought this house, but family isn't something you can lock out with new deadbolts. As they drove away, I noticed several neighbors still watching. Mrs. Chen caught my eye and quickly looked away. The Johnsons had disappeared entirely. In one afternoon, I'd gone from new neighbor to neighborhood drama. My phone buzzed with notifications. The family group chat had exploded again now with photos Emma had apparently taken of the house exterior accompanied by captions like, "The house too good for family," and "Where love goes to die." I retreated inside, engaging all my new locks. Through the window, I could see my marigold bed destroyed by small hands. The metaphor wasn't lost on me. Everything I tried to build my family seemed determined to uproot. But I wouldn't give in. This house was my boundary made physical, my no given foundation and walls. If they wanted to paint me as selfish, so be it. I'd rather be selfish with a home than generous without one. The summons came via group text that evening. Family meeting tomorrow, 2 p.m. at Mom and Dad's. Mandatory attendance. We need to resolve this situation like adults. I considered ignoring it, but knew that would only escalate matters. Besides, I needed to face them, eventually present a united front that made my position crystal clear. I arrived at my childhood home to find cars lining the street. Through the living room window, I could see the gathering. Not just immediate family, but the extended cast of aunts, uncles, and cousins who materialized for major family drama. The moment I walked in, conversation ceased. 20 pairs of eyes turned to me with expressions ranging from disappointment to outright hostility. They'd arranged the furniture in a circle intervention style with one empty chair, clearly meant for me, positioned like a defendant's seat. "Cassandra." My father spoke first, his voice heavy with the disappointment he'd perfected over years. "Sit, we need to talk." I remained standing. This feels more like an ambush than a conversation. "Sit down," Aunt Patricia commanded. She'd driven 3 hours for this, her presence indicating the severity of my transgression. "Show some respect." I perched on the chair's edge, purse in my lap, keys in hand, ready to bolt if necessary. My mother stood in the center, a tissue already pressed to her eyes. "We're here because we love you, Cassandra. This selfishness isn't who you are." "Buying a house isn't selfish." "Let her finish," Uncle Thomas interrupted. "You'll have your turn." My mother continued, voice trembling with practiced emotion. "When you were 5, you gave your favorite doll to Emma because hers broke. You've always been generous, caring. What happened to that little girl?" "She grew up and bought a house," I said flatly. Cousin Michael snorted. "Must be nice having money to throw around." "I work for my money, just like everyone else here." "Not everyone here has your opportunities," Aunt Patricia interjected. "Some of us understand struggle. Family helps family through struggle." Emma sat beside Brad, both dressed in their Sunday best, a calculated move to appear respectable and desperate simultaneously. The children were absent, likely with a babysitter removing their emotional manipulation from the equation. Since Cassandra wants to be technical about this, my father pulled out a manila folder. "Let's review facts. Emma and Brad pay $1,200 monthly for substandard housing. The schools are failing. The neighborhood has crime issues. Their lease ends in 6 weeks. Meanwhile," he continued, flipping pages, "Cassandra purchased a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with a full basement and 2-car garage. Her mortgage, according to public records, is $1,600 monthly. You researched my mortgage." I couldn't hide my shock. "Public information," Uncle Marcus said smugly. "Title company connections have benefits." "That's a violation of—" "Of what?" he challenged. "Looking up publicly available data, please. You want privacy while your family suffers." "I'm not suffering," I insisted. "I'm living within my means." "Your means," Aunt Patricia spat the words, "while Emma's family drowns. How very American of you." "We're all American," I pointed out, "born and raised." "Some of us remember our values despite that," she retorted. "Family first, always." Brad cleared his throat. "Can I say something? As the man trying to provide for my family—" He paused for effect. "I work construction. Hard, honest work. But one injury sidelined me for months. Medical bills destroyed our credit. Now I'm back working harder than ever, but the damage is done. Every rental application gets rejected. Every loan denied." Have you tried everything? Emma interrupted. Credit repair companies, debt consolidation, side jobs. Nothing works fast enough. In 6 weeks, we could be homeless. But sure, Cassandra needs 3 bedrooms for her throw pillows. That's not fair. Fair. My mother's voice rose. Was it fair when Emma helped you through college babysitting professors' kids for free so you could study? Was it fair when she gave you her car when yours died senior year? Her car that I paid to fix and maintained for 2 years after I reminded them. Always keeping score. My father shook his head. This is what education does. Teaches children to put price tags on love. Speaking of price tags, Uncle Thomas pulled out his phone. I've been running numbers. If Cassandra took Emma's family and split utilities and groceries, she'd actually save money. It's financially smart. And morally right, Grandmother Agnes spoke from her corner chair. At 91, her word carried weight. In my day, family lived together, helped together. This modern selfishness breaks my heart. Grandma, times have changed. Hearts haven't, she interrupted. Either you have one or you don't. Right now, I'm not sure about yours. The room murmured agreement. I felt like a butterfly pinned to a board examined and found lacking. Let me propose something. Cousin Diana stood. She worked in real estate, the family's success story, before me. What if we formalize this arrangement, draw up a lease agreement? Emma's family pays rent, contributes to utilities, everything legal and above board. I've already drafted something. Uncle Marcus produced papers from nowhere. Standard lease, $800 monthly, below market but fair. Shared spaces, defined responsibilities, protects everyone. They'd planned this thoroughly. Every angle covered, every argument anticipated. I was fighting a war they'd already mapped. The issue isn't paperwork, I said carefully. It's boundaries, privacy, the right to decide who lives in my home. Your home bought with privilege, Aunt Patricia countered. Good job, no kids, no real responsibilities. Some of us sacrifice for family. You sacrifice nothing. I've given thousands. Money, she waved dismissively. Easy to give when you have it. Emma gives time, energy, youth. She's raising the next generation while you're raising property values. Different choices. Stop saying that, Emma exploded. You think I chose teenage pregnancy, chose a husband whose body got broken providing for us, chose to watch my babies struggle while my sister hoards empty rooms. I'm not hoarding. 3 bedrooms. She stood shaking. 1 person, 3 bedrooms. It's obscene, wasteful, selfish beyond comprehension. What's selfish, I stood to matching her energy, is assuming you're entitled to someone else's achievements. I saved for years. While I raised children, your choice. Family's children, my mother interjected. Those babies are everyone's responsibility. It takes a village. Then let the village rent them a house. I'm not a village. I'm one person who bought 1 house for herself. For herself, my father repeated slowly. There it is, the American poison. Individual over collective, self over family. It's not poison to want privacy. Privacy from what? Uncle Thomas demanded. What are you doing that requires such privacy? What are you hiding? The accusation hung heavy, implying terrible secrets where none existed. I simply wanted space to breathe, to exist, without judgment or obligation. But how could I explain that to people who'd fused their identities so completely? I'm not hiding anything, I just want to live alone. Want. Grandmother Agnes sighed. So many wants. Emma wants a safe home for her babies. You want solitude. Whose want matters more? Both can matter without me providing Emma's housing. How, my mother demanded. With what money? What options you have solutions that don't exist? Brad pulled out his phone. Want to see our rental? The mold? The peeling lead paint? The windows that don't lock properly? He swiped through photos designed to horrify. This is where you're sending us back to. I'm not sending you anywhere. Your housing isn't my responsibility. Responsibility? Emma laughed bitterly. You always loved that word. So responsible with your homework, your job, your savings. Where's your responsibility to family? Where's your responsibility to yourself? I countered. To your own family. Why is everyone else supposed to solve your problems? Because that's what family does. The room erupted in agreement voices overlapping in condemnation of my selfishness. Enough. My father's voice silenced them. Cassandra, I'll make this simple. You have 1 week to reconsider. Either Emma's family moves in with proper agreements or you're no longer welcome here. You're giving me an ultimatum. I'm giving you a chance to remember who you are, who we raised you to be. You raised me to work hard and be independent. We raised you to care about family. My mother was crying now, real tears. To share blessings, to lift others up, not to step on them while climbing your ladder. I've never stepped on anyone. No. Emma pulled out her phone. Should I read the texts where you called Brad lazy, where you said I should have made better choices, where you mocked our struggles while sitting in your empty castle, sao inits sampintie? I didn't remember those texts, but in frustration, I might have vented to someone. The betrayal of private conversations being weaponized stung. Private conversations taken out of context. Context. She scrolled dramatically. Here's context. Emma needs to stop having kids she can't afford. That's what you really think, isn't it? That we're just irresponsible breeders ruining your perfect life. I never said breeders. Might as well have. She pocketed her phone. Message received loud and clear. We're burdens, mistakes, problems you shouldn't have to solve. You're twisting everything. Are we, Aunt Patricia stood, or are we finally seeing clearly you got yours, so forget everyone else? The American dream in action. This is emotional manipulation. This is family trying to survive. My mother collapsed into her chair. But clearly we've lost you to materialism, to selfishness, to the world that says things matter more than people. My house isn't just a thing. No, it's a monument to your greed. Uncle Thomas gathered his coat. I've seen enough. When she comes begging for help someday, remember this moment. One by one, they stood to leave. Each exit came with parting shots. Disappointed, but not surprised. Aunt Patricia, your grandfather would be ashamed. Uncle Marcus, hope those empty rooms keep you company. Cousin Michael, money can't buy character. Cousin Diana, soon only my parents Emma's family and I remained. The silence stretched until Brad broke it. For what it's worth, we would have been good tenants, quiet, clean, respectful of your space. While converting my garage and adding kitchenettes, he shrugged. Minor improvements, but clearly you prefer echoing halls to children's laughter. Emma stood slowly, dignity wrapped around her like armor. I want you to know something, Cassandra. When Mom and Dad get old, need care. That's on you now. When cousins need help, you. When family celebrates or mourns, do it alone. You've made your choice. Emma, please. No. She raised her hand. You've said enough. Made your position clear. Just remember, you didn't just reject sharing your house. You rejected us. All of us. Hope it was worth it. They left together, Brad's arm around Emma's shoulders, united in their dismissal of me. My parents remained sitting in silence that felt like judgment. Finally, my father spoke. The offer stands. 1 week. After that. He shrugged the gesture, communicating finality. Dad, you can't seriously. What I can't do, he stood suddenly looking older, is watch one daughter destroy another with selfishness. Either you're part of this family or you're not. Decide. My mother wouldn't look at me as they walked to their bedroom, leaving me alone in the living room where I'd taken first steps, opened Christmas presents, celebrated graduations. Now it felt like a courtroom where I'd been tried and convicted. I drove home in tears, not from guilt, but from frustration. They'd coordinated this attack perfectly, each playing their role in the emotional manipulation symphony. But underneath their performance lay in truth they wouldn't acknowledge. I had something they wanted, and they'd destroy me to get it. The week they gave me wasn't for reconsideration. It was for planning my defense. Because if this meeting proved anything, it was that my house was just the beginning. They wouldn't stop until they'd consumed everything I'd built. But I wouldn't let them. I'd lose my family before I'd lose myself. The morning after the family meeting, I woke with a stress migraine and a determination to protect myself. First order of business, securing my finances. I'd always been meticulous about money, but recent events demanded a full audit. I made coffee and opened my laptop, starting with my checking account. Everything appeared normal until I reached my savings. The emergency fund I'd maintained since college, the one my mother had access to, just in case something happened to me, showed a balance that made my stomach drop. $3,000. There should have been $8,000. My hands trembled as I clicked through transaction history. 5 withdrawals over the past 2 weeks, each just under the amount that would trigger an automatic notification. The memo lines were vague. Emergency household expense. Family necessity. Urgent repair. I called the bank with shaking fingers. I need to report unauthorized withdrawals from my savings account. I can help with that, the representative said cheerfully. Can you verify the account ownership? After security questions, she continued. I see the withdrawals you're referencing. However, they were made by an authorized user on the account, Margaret Thompson, my mother, but she didn't have permission for these specific withdrawals. I understand your frustration, but as an authorized user, she has full access. These aren't considered unauthorized transactions. Can I remove her immediately? Of course. Would you like to remove Margaret Thompson's access to all accounts? All accounts. My throat tightened. What other accounts does she have access to? The clicking of keys filled the silence. It appears she's listed on your savings secondary checking and your investment account. My investment account. I barely breathed the words. That account held my freelance earnings earmarked for home repairs and improvements. Yes, though, I don't show any recent activity there. Shall I remove her from all accounts? Yes, immediately. And please send me all statements for the past 6 months. After 20 minutes of verification and paperwork, I hung up with my mother's access revoked. But the damage was done. $5,000 gone, probably already spent on whatever plans they'd made for my house. I logged into my credit monitoring service next, and my worst fears materialized. 7 hard inquiries in the past month, all for home improvement stores and contractor services. The applications showed my name, my social security number, but addresses I didn't recognize. My phone rang, Mom. I declined the call and kept investigating. Each credit application was for amounts between $5,000 and $10,000. Most were denied due to recent mortgage activity, but 2 had been approved. A Lowe's card with an $8,000 limit and a Home Depot card for $6,000. I called Lowe's first. After an hour of holds and transfers, I learned the card had been activated and used. Current balance $3,400. The purchase is appliances, lumber, plumbing supplies, all the materials needed for a basement renovation. The shipping address for these items, I asked. Let me check. Everything was scheduled for delivery to 425 Maple Street. My address. They were having renovation supplies delivered to my house. The audacity took my breath away. Home Depot told a similar story. $2,000 in charges for kitchen fixtures, paint, and carpeting. Delivery scheduled for next Monday. I spent the next 3 hours on the phone, canceling cards, filing fraud reports, placing credit freezes. Each call revealed new violations. My mother had used her access to gather every piece of financial information needed to impersonate me. Between calls, texts flooded in. Mom, the bank called about some confusion. Call me. Emma, whatever you're doing with the credit card, stop. We need those supplies. Dad, your mother is trying to help. Stop overreacting. Brad, really canceling orders. Those materials were for your house value. I ignored them all, focusing on damage control. By noon, I'd compiled a list that made me nauseated. 5,000 stolen from savings. 3 credit cards fraudulently opened. 5,000 in fraudulent charges. 2 contractor estimates in my name. 1 loan application denied for basement renovation. My doorbell rang as I was scheduling a legal consultation. Through the peephole, I saw a contractor's truck in my driveway and 2 men at my door. "Can I help you?" "Peterson Construction." The older man smiled. "We're here for the preliminary walkthrough. Mrs. Thompson scheduled it." "No, Mrs. Thompson lives here. You have the wrong address." He checked his tablet. 425 Maple Cassandra Thompson Basement Renovation and Kitchen Addition. "I didn't schedule this. There's been a misunderstanding." "Look, lady, we drove 40 minutes. The deposit's been paid. We need to at least measure—" "No one's entering my home. I didn't hire you. I didn't pay a deposit." He showed me the tablet. There it was, a contract with my electronic signature, one I'd never made. Deposit paid from the Lowe's card. "This is fraud. That's not my signature." "Lady, I don't know what family drama you got going on, but we did the work to get here. Someone's paying for our time." Bill Margaret Thompson. I provided my parents' address. "She's the one who hired you." They left grumbling, but I knew this was just the beginning. How many other contractors had deposits? How many other financial landmines waited? My laptop dinged with an email notification from my mortgage company. Subject line, "Regarding your recent refinance inquiry." I hadn't made any refinance inquiry. The email detailed a phone conversation with someone claiming to be me, asking about cash-out refinancing options to help family members with housing. They'd had enough information to get deep into the process before the representative requested additional verification. My phone rang again, this time Emma. Against my better judgment, I answered, "What?" "Don't what me," she screeched. "Mom's in tears. Dad's threatening to disown you. What kind of daughter files fraud charges against her own mother?" "The kind whose mother stole $5,000 and committed identity theft." "She didn't steal anything. That money was for your house improvements, to help get everything ready for us. You should be grateful." I hung up and blocked her number, then my father's, then the family group chat. One by one, I severed digital ties to people who'd proven they saw me as nothing more than a resource to exploit. But the financial violations continued revealing themselves. My employer called that afternoon. Someone had contacted HR posing as me, requesting that my direct deposit be changed to a different account. Fortunately, our HR department required written authorization, but the attempt was documented. "We're concerned about potential identity theft," my supervisor said carefully. "Is everything all right?" I gave her the sanitized version. Family member with outdated financial access causing problems. She suggested I take a few days off to sort things out, which I gratefully accepted. The next morning brought new discoveries. My car insurance had received a call about adding additional drivers to my policy, Brad and Emma. My health insurance had fielded questions about adding dependents. Even my cell phone provider had been contacted about adding lines to my account. Each call revealed the same pattern: someone with extensive knowledge of my personal information, attempting to intertwine Emma's family with my financial life, the groundwork for making me financially responsible for them, whether I agreed or not. I hired a lawyer that afternoon. Elizabeth Hartley specialized in family financial disputes, and her office walls displayed favorable judgments like trophies. "Family identity theft is more common than people think," she said, reviewing my documentation. "The emotional manipulation makes victims hesitant to prosecute, but what your family's done crosses multiple legal lines." "What are my options?" "Criminally, you could press charges. Identity theft, fraud, attempted grand larceny. Your mother could face jail time." The words hit like physical blows. I don't want her in jail. I just want this to stop. Then we go civil. Restraining orders, cease and desist, letters, financial separation orders. We can also sue for damages. the stolen funds, credit damage, emotional distress. Would that work? The evidence is overwhelming, but she leaned forward. Family cases get ugly. They'll paint you as rich, selfish, abandoning family in need. Public opinion won't be kind. Public opinion doesn't pay my mortgage. She smiled. Good attitude. Let's start with cease and desist letters to everyone involved. Make it clear that further attempts at financial manipulation will result in criminal prosecution. We spent 2 hours documenting everything, building a paper trail that would protect me. As I signed retainer paperwork, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Aunt Patricia. Your mother is hospitalized with chest pains from stress. Hope you're happy. I showed Elizabeth, who immediately drafted a response. All communication regarding my client must go through legal representation. Further contact will be considered harassment. The drive home felt surreal. In 48 hours, I'd gone from homeowner to victim of financial fraud by my own family. The house that should have been my sanctuary had become a fortress under siege. As I pulled into my driveway, I noticed something taped to my door, a printout of a social media post from Emma. When family betrays family over money, everyone loses. My children are homeless while their aunt counts empty bedrooms. My mother is hospitalized from the stress of her daughter's greed. Pray for us. The comments below supported her completely. Friends and distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years condemned my selfishness. Someone had even started a GoFundMe, Help Emma's Family Find Safe Housing After Family Betrayal. I tore down the paper and went inside, engaging all my locks. My laptop showed 17 missed video calls from various family members. My work email contained messages from cousins I'd forgotten existed, all pleading Emma's case. But between the condemnations, I found something else. A message from my grandmother Helen, my father's mother, who'd been estranged from the family for years. Cassandra, I heard about your situation through the family grapevine. Your grandfather and I went through something similar 40 years ago with your father and his siblings. If you need someone who understands, I'm here. A lifeline from unexpected waters. I saved her number knowing I'd need allies in the war my family had declared. Because if today proved anything, it was that they wouldn't stop at emotional manipulation. They'd destroy my financial life to get what they wanted. But I'd worked too hard to let them succeed. Every fraudulent charge would be reversed, every credit inquiry challenged, every stolen penny recovered. They'd awakened something in me, not greed as they claimed, but self-preservation. And I'd preserve myself even if it meant losing them all. 3 days after discovering the financial violations, I sat in Elizabeth Hartley's conference room, surrounded by evidence of my family's betrayal. Bank statements, credit reports, and contractor agreements covered the polished table like pieces of a disturbing puzzle. I've seen worse, Elizabeth said, though her expression suggested otherwise, but rarely from people who claim to love their victims. She'd assembled a team, a junior associate named Marcus Chen who specialized in financial fraud, and a paralegal who'd been documenting every transaction. The thoroughness felt like armor against the chaos my family had created. Let's review what we're dealing with. Elizabeth opened a folder. Identity theft wire, fraud, credit fraud, and conspiracy to commit fraud. These aren't just civil matters anymore, Cassandra. Your family has committed serious crimes. I know, I said quietly, but I still don't want my mother arrested. That may not be your choice. Banks have their own prosecution protocols. Once fraud is reported, they often pursue charges independently. Marcus looked up from his laptop. The Lowe's charges alone constitute grand larceny, over 3,000 in materials ordered under false pretenses. Can we focus on recovery rather than prosecution? Elizabeth exchanged glances with her team. We can try, but your family seems determined to escalate. Have you seen Emma's latest social media campaign? She turned her tablet toward me. Emma had started a blog, Betrayed by Blood, How My Sister's Greed Destroyed Our Family. The posts detailed my supposed wealth, complete with estimations of my salary and savings that were wildly inflated. Photos of my house were captioned with phrases like, 3 empty bedrooms while children sleep in poverty. This is defamation, Marcus noted. We could add that to our civil suit. She's careful, though. Elizabeth scrolled through posts. Nothing technically false, just misleading. She's getting advice from someone. Brad's cousin is a paralegal, I remembered. He probably helped craft the language. Smart. Stay just within legal bounds while destroying your reputation. Elizabeth closed the tablet, which brings us to strategy. What's your goal here? I want my house, my finances, and my life left alone. Reasonable. Here's what I propose: comprehensive restraining orders against all involved parties. Financial separation orders preventing any access to your accounts or credit, and a civil suit for damages. We'll demand full restitution plus penalties. What about the contractors? Cease and desist letters are already drafted. Most will back off once they realize they're part of fraud. The deposits paid with stolen funds will be harder to recover, but we'll try. Marcus pulled up another document. There's something else. The mortgage refinance inquiry. It went further than you knew. They'd actually started an application claiming power of attorney. My stomach dropped. How is that possible? Your parents had old documents from when you had surgery 5 years ago. Remember granting temporary medical power of attorney? I did remember. Appendectomy complications had required emergency decisions. I'd signed papers trusting my parents completely. But that was medical only, and temporary. They modified the documents, poorly but enough to confuse a busy loan officer. If we hadn't caught it, he trailed off. They could have refinanced my house without my knowledge. Attempted to. It would have been caught eventually, but the mess would have taken months to untangle. Elizabeth leaned forward. This shows premeditation. They've been planning this since before you bought the house. That uncle at the title company, he probably alerted them the day you started looking. The betrayal deepened with each revelation. Every step of my home-buying journey watched and reported. Every financial move cataloged for future exploitation. So what now? Now we go on offense. Elizabeth smiled, and I understood why her wall displayed so many victories. First, we file police reports for all fraudulent activity. Not for prosecution necessarily, but for documentation. Banks and credit companies move faster with police report numbers. Then, restraining orders with specific financial provisions. Your family comes within 500 feet of you, your property, or your workplace, they face arrest. Any attempt to access your credit or finances triggers immediate violation. Will judges grant that? With this evidence, absolutely. I'm also recommending a financial audit. Every account, asset, and transaction from the past year. We need to ensure they haven't accessed anything else. Marcus typed rapidly. Already started. Your 401k is clean. Investment accounts show no unauthorized access beyond the recent attempts. But, he hesitated. What? Your parents claimed you as a dependent on their taxes last year. What I haven't lived with them in 7 years doesn't matter. They claimed you provided less than half your own support due to their assistance. Saved them about $3,000 in taxes. That's tax fraud. Add it to the list. Elizabeth made another note. We'll need to amend your returns report theirs. The IRS doesn't play games with false dependents. The violations kept compounding. Each discovery revealed new depths of entitlement and deception. My family hadn't just crossed lines, they'd obliterated them. There's one more thing. Elizabeth's tone changed. That tenant application Emma filed, it's more complex than we thought. She produced city documents. They filed claiming verbal lease agreement and partial rent payment. The rent was the money your mother stole from your savings. They're trying to establish tenancy. But they've never lived there. It doesn't matter if they can convince a judge otherwise. Emma's been collecting evidence. Photos at your house, mail sent to your address, even utilities inquiries in their names. The day she showed up with the kids, I realized she wasn't just measuring, she was documenting. Exactly. This isn't amateur hour. Someone's coaching them through tenant law loopholes. Marcus pulled up another screen. Brad's cousin isn't just a paralegal. He works for a firm specializing in tenant rights. They're getting professional help to steal your house legally. The room spun slightly. Every move I'd made, they'd countered. Every protection I'd built, they'd schemed to circumvent. Can they succeed? Not if we act fast. Elizabeth stood pacing like a general planning battle. Emergency injunction preventing them from entering the property. Formal trespass notices. Documentation that no lease exists, verbal or otherwise. What if they've already moved stuff in when I'm at work? Your security cameras. Basic doorbell camera. Nothing comprehensive. Change that immediately. Full coverage, cloud storage, motion alerts. Document everything. If they sneeze near your property, we need video. She returned to her seat. Now let's discuss your family's recent escalation, your mother's hospitalization. Aunt Patricia said chest pains from stress. Marcus. He'd already investigated. Margaret Thompson was treated at Regional Medical for anxiety, released same day with Xanax prescription. No cardiac event, no admission. Your aunt lied. Relief mixed with anger. Even medical emergencies were weapons in their arsenal. This is good, Elizabeth said. Shows pattern of deception. Judges hate manipulation of medical crises. How do you know all this medical records are private? Public court records from your parents' bankruptcy 8 years ago included medical debt details. Your mother's claimed similar stress-related hospitalizations during 3 different financial disputes. My parents were bankrupt. Another shock in an avalanche of revelations. You didn't know? Elizabeth seemed surprised. They filed Chapter 7 discharged over $60,000 in credit card debt, mostly cash advances and luxury purchases. The final piece clicked. Their desperation wasn't just about helping Emma. They were drowning too. My house represented their life raft and they'd pull me under to climb aboard. Change of strategy, I said firmly. Full prosecution, every charge you can file. Elizabeth nodded approvingly. Now you're thinking clearly. Mercy requires reciprocation. Your family offers none. We spent the next 2 hours building our case. Each document strengthened our position. By the time we finished, I had a battle plan. Immediate restraining orders, criminal fraud charges, civil lawsuit for damages, IRS notification of tax fraud, full financial audit and security overhaul, property protection measures. One last thing, Elizabeth said as I prepared to leave. Your grandmother who reached out, Helen Thompson. Yes. I did some checking. She won a similar case against your parents 22 years ago. They tried to steal her retirement accounts claiming elder abuse. She won, but it cost her the family relationship. She never told anyone that story. Because your parents spun it as her being senile and paranoid. Sound familiar? The pattern stretched back decades. I wasn't their first victim, just their latest, but I'd be their last. What else? She kept documentation, offered to share if it helps your case. Patterns of behavior, previous victims. Your parents have a history. I left the office with mixed emotions. Vindication that I wasn't overreacting. Horror at the scope of my family's crimes. And determination to end their reign of financial terror. My phone had 37 missed calls when I turned it back on. All from family numbers I hadn't blocked yet. The voicemails would be predictable. Guilt manipulation threats. I deleted them unheard. One text broke through from a number I recognized. Sophia, Emma's oldest. Aunt Cassie. I'm sorry about everything. Mom and Dad are wrong. I recorded them planning stuff. If you need it for court, I'll help. A crack in their united front. Even their own daughter saw through the manipulation. I saved the text knowing Elizabeth would want this witness. The war for my house had become larger, a battle for truth against decades of family deception. But with legal backing and unexpected allies, I might actually win. And when I did, the house would stand as more than shelter. It would be proof that patterns can be broken, that victims can fight back, and that family isn't defined by blood but by respect. For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. The law was on my side. Truth was on my side. And sometimes, that's enough. The locksmith arrived at 7 in the morning, earlier than expected, but perfect for my needs. I'd taken the rest of the week off work to handle the security upgrades Elizabeth had mandated. My house had become a fortress in progress. 6-pin cylinders, bump-proof, pick-resistant. Jake the locksmith explained, showing me the hardware. These babies would frustrate even experienced burglars. Your family members, no chance. While he worked on the front door, the security system installer set up cameras. Within hours, every angle of my property would be monitored, recorded, and stored in the cloud. Motion sensors, window alarms, and smart locks that could be controlled from my phone. Perhaps overkill, but recent events had shattered my sense of safety. Crazy X, Jake asked conversationally, installing the third deadbolt. Crazy family? I corrected. Ah, he nodded knowingly. Those are worse. Exes usually give up. Family thinks they own you forever. By 10 o'clock, the installations were nearly complete when motion alerts started pinging my phone. The new driveway camera showed a familiar minivan approaching. Emma. But this time, she'd brought reinforcements. A full moving truck followed her vehicle. You might want to see this, I called to Jake. He peered out the window and whistled. That's bold. Want me to call the cops? Not yet. Let's see what they do. Everything's being recorded now, right? Every pixel, the security installer confirmed. HD quality audio included if they're within range. Emma parked and emerged with confidence that suggested she had no idea about the new security measures. Brad followed along with 2 men I didn't recognize, probably friends enlisted to help move. They began unloading boxes onto my lawn. I stepped onto the porch phone in hand, ready to dial 911. Stop right there. You're trespassing. Cassie. Emma's fake surprise wouldn't fool anyone. We're just dropping off a few things. Mom said you'd cool down. Nothing's cooling down. Get off my property. Our property, Brad corrected, hefting a box. We've established residency. Can't illegally evict us now. You've established nothing except criminal trespass. I have restraining orders being processed. Leave now or I call the police. One of their helpers looked uncertain. Emma, you said she agreed to this. She did, Emma lied smoothly. She's just being difficult. Cassie, stop making a scene. The neighbors are watching. Indeed, Mrs. Chen had emerged, pretending to check her mail while obviously documenting the drama. The Johnsons had paused their garage organization to observe. Good, I said loudly. Witnesses to your trespassing. Jake, call the police. The locksmith obliged, his professional demeanor never wavering. Police, yes. I'm at 425 Maple Street. The homeowner has trespassers refusing to leave. They're currently unloading a moving truck against the owner's wishes. Emma's confidence cracked. You're seriously calling the cops on family... On trespassers, I corrected, who happen to be related to me. Brad stepped forward aggressively. Those locks won't keep us out. We have rights. You have nothing... I stood firm, except 5 minutes before the police arrive. Their helpers were already retreating to the truck, wanting no part of potential arrests. But Emma and Brad held their ground, apparently believing their fabricated tenant rights would protect them. Check your mail lately, Brad smirked. Legal documents establishing our tenancy. You can't just kick us out. Fraudulent documents mean nothing. Prove they're fraudulent, Emma challenged. We have texts discussing move-in dates, witnesses who heard you agree, Mom's testimony about the family meeting where everything was decided. All lies that my lawyer will demolish in court. The security installer appeared at my shoulder. Ma'am, I'm getting all of this. Every word is being recorded, just so everyone's aware. Brad's smirk faded. You can't record us without permission. On my property, I absolutely can. Smile for the cameras. Sirens approached and the dynamics shifted instantly. Emma switched to victim mode, shoulders slumping, tears threatening. I can't believe you'd do this. Your own sister. I can't believe you'd try to steal my house, yet here we are. 2 police cars arrived, officers emerging with practiced caution. I recognized Officer Martinez from a community meeting months ago. Ma'am, you called about trespassers. Yes, these people are trying to move into my house without permission. I've asked them to leave repeatedly. Emma interjected tearfully. Officer, there's been a misunderstanding. We're family and we have a verbal lease agreement. No such agreement exists, I said firmly. I have documentation from my lawyer confirming no lease, verbal or written, has been established. Officer Martinez looked between us. Do they live here currently? No, they've never lived here. I bought this house 2 weeks ago and live alone. She's lying. Brad stepped forward. We've been staying here. Our stuff is inside. Really? I gestured to my security installer. Can you show the officers the footage from the past 2 weeks, every entry and exit? Gee. The installer pulled up his tablet showing time-stamped footage. Here's every person who's entered the property since installation began yesterday. Before that, the homeowner's doorbell camera has 2 weeks of history showing only her coming and going. Officer Martinez reviewed the footage while his partner kept watch. The evidence was undeniable. No one but me had entered the house legitimately. Seems clear-cut, Martinez concluded. Sir, ma'am, you need to leave. If you believe you have tenancy rights, pursue them through proper legal channels. But right now, you're trespassing. This is insane. Emma's tears flowed freely. She's my sister. My kids need a home. That's a family matter, not a legal one. Martinez remained unmoved. Leave now or we'll arrest you for trespassing. Brad loaded their boxes back into the truck, muttering threats about lawsuits and tenant rights. Emma stood frozen, apparently unable to process being denied something she'd decided was hers. 15 years, she said quietly. 15 years I've struggled while you had everything easy. Good grades came naturally. College scholarships fell in your lap. Jobs appeared like magic. And now a house just for you. Nothing fell in my lap, I responded. I worked for everything. While I had babies, while Brad recovered from his accident, while life happened to us, you just accumulated wealth. You made choices. I made different ones. Choices. She laughed bitterly. Like I chose birth control failure. Like Brad chose that drunk driver hitting him. I noticed Officer Martinez's subtle reaction. Brad had told everyone his accident was someone else's fault. Another lie in their tapestry of deception. Ma'am, we need you to leave now, Martinez insisted. Emma finally moved toward the minivan. This isn't over. You can't just discard family when they become inconvenient. I'm not discarding anyone. I'm protecting what I've earned. Earned, she spat the word. While your nephews and niece suffer. Remember that when you're alone in your big house. They drove away, the moving truck following. Several neighbors had witnessed the entire scene, and I knew it would be neighborhood gossip for weeks. But I didn't care. Let them talk. I'd protected my home. Jake finished installing the last lock. That was intense. Good thing you upgraded when you did. They'll be back, I predicted. Not getting in with these. He patted the door. Military-grade security would take serious tools and time to breach. The security installer completed his work, showing me how to monitor feeds from my phone set alerts and review footage. Every door, window, and entry point was covered. Motion sensors would alert me to anyone approaching. The house was as secure as technology could make it. As they packed up to leave, my phone rang. Elizabeth. Just watch the footage you streamed. Perfect handling. That recording will be crucial if they pursue false tenant claims. They seemed convinced they had rights. Delusion and determination often look similar, but video evidence trumps their lies. How are you holding up? I looked around my secured home, feeling safe for the first time in weeks. Better. The house feels mine again. Good, because I have news. The restraining orders were approved. Emergency basis given the evidence. They'll be served within 24 hours. All of them. Oh, Your parents, Emma, Brad, and the extended family members involved in the financial fraud. Comprehensive no-contact orders. They come within 500 feet of you or your property, they face arrest. Relief washed over me. Legal protection to match my physical security. There's more, Elizabeth continued. The banks are pursuing criminal charges for the credit card fraud. The amounts involved triggered automatic prosecution protocols. Your mother will likely face arrest by week's end. The relief soured. Despite everything, the image of my mother in handcuffs hurt. I know it's hard, Elizabeth said gently, but they forced this escalation. You tried to handle it civilly. I know, it's just, she's still my mom, who stole from you, committed identity theft, and tried to orchestrate the takeover of your home. Biology doesn't excuse criminality. She was right. The woman who'd raised me had become someone willing to destroy me for money. That relationship had ended the moment she accessed my accounts without permission. After the call, I walked through my secured house, testing each lock, reviewing each camera angle. The fortress was complete. But as evening fell, the victory felt hollow. I'd saved my house, but lost my family. My phone buzzed with notifications I'd been ignoring. The family group chat had exploded again, this time with video Emma had taken during the confrontation. Edited cleverly, it showed only her tears and my refusal to help, painting me as heartless. Comments poured in from extended family and family friends. People who'd known me since childhood now called me selfish, cruel, ungrateful. Emma's GoFundMe had raised $3,000 from sympathetic strangers who believed her version of events. But between the condemnations, a private message appeared, from Sophia again. Aunt Cassie, I saw the whole thing from the truck. Mom made me stay hidden. She lied to those guys helping us. Said you'd agreed to everything. I'm sorry. If you need me to tell the truth, I will. A teenager showing more integrity than her parents. I saved this message too, evidence of the truth beneath Emma's performance. The house stood secure around me. Locks engaged, cameras, rolling alarms set. I'd won this battle. But as night fell on Maple Street, I wondered if any victory was worth losing everyone I'd grown up loving. Then I remembered the theft, the lies, the attempted takeover of my life. They'd lost me long before I'd locked them out. I was just the only one honest enough to admit it. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp clarity that usually energized me for the work week. But as I sat in Morrison Investments' parking lot staring at the building where I'd built my career, an unfamiliar anxiety churned in my stomach. The events of the past 2 weeks had shaken more than just my family relationships. They'd leaked into every aspect of my life. I'd barely settled at my desk when Jennifer, my cubicle neighbor, gave me a look that confirmed my fears. "Rough weekend?" she asked with false casualness. "You could say that." I powered up my computer, hoping to avoid discussion. "Your mom seems sweet," she continued, "very concerned about you." My fingers froze over the keyboard. "My mother called you—" "Not me, HR. But walls are thin and Deborah's voice carries when she's upset." Jennifer leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "Is it true you're having some kind of breakdown hoarding disorder or something?" "What?" The word came out louder than intended, drawing glances from nearby desks. "Your mom told Deborah you bought a house way beyond your means and now refuse to let anyone help you. Said you've become paranoid, changing locks, installing cameras, thinking everyone's out to get you." The blood drained from my face. My mother had weaponized my workplace, spinning our conflict into mental health concerns. "That's not... It's complicated family stuff, not a breakdown." Jennifer's sympathy looked genuine but tainted with doubt. "Sure, of course. Just, if you need help." "I need to check my email." I cut her off, turning firmly to my screen. But the damage was spreading. Throughout the morning, colleagues who usually chatted at the coffee station gave me wide berths. Conversations halted when I approached. By lunch, I'd received 3 different concerned messages from coworkers offering support for my difficult time. My desk phone rang at 2 o'clock. "Cassandra, please come to my office." Richard Brennan, my direct supervisor, sounded carefully neutral. The walk to his corner office felt like approaching execution. Through the glass walls, I could see Deborah from HR already seated, her expression professionally compassionate. "Sit, please." Richard gestured to the chair across from his desk. "We need to discuss some concerns that have been raised." By my mother, I couldn't keep the bitterness out. Deborah shifted uncomfortably. By someone claiming to be your healthcare proxy, yes. She called quite distressed about your mental state. She's not my healthcare proxy. She has no authority to discuss my anything. She provided documentation. Deborah produced papers I recognized with sinking heart. The medical power of attorney from my appendectomy 5 years ago. This seems to indicate otherwise. That was temporary, for emergency surgery. It expired years ago. The document doesn't show an expiration date, because my mother had clearly altered it just as she'd done for the mortgage fraud. This is part of ongoing family fraud I'm dealing with legally. My mother is trying to manipulate every aspect of my life because I won't let my sister move into my new house. Richard exchanged glances with Deborah. "Cassandra, no one's judging family dynamics, but when someone calls claiming you're exhibiting paranoid behavior, making large impulsive purchases, isolating yourself, we have to take that seriously." The house purchase was planned for years. I saved methodically. There's nothing impulsive about it. Your mother mentioned you bought it in secret, hid it from family, and now believe they're conspiring against you. Each word twisted reality just enough to sound concerning while obscuring the truth. My mother had learned to weaponize therapeutic language, making my reasonable boundaries sound like symptoms. They are conspiring. I have proof. Fraudulent credit cards, stolen money, attempted identity theft. My lawyer is handling multiple criminal charges. Another exchanged glance. You've involved lawyers to protect myself from fraud, not because I'm paranoid. Deborah leaned forward. "Cassandra, we're not questioning your reality, but stress can manifest in different ways. Your recent behavior, taking sudden time off, seeming distracted the family conflict, it's affecting your work environment." "How is it affecting anything I've met? Every deadline exceeded my targets." "It's not about performance metrics," Richard interrupted. "It's about stability. Clients trust us with millions. We need to know our analysts are balanced." The word hung between us like a threat. Balanced, stable, all the coded language for not causing drama that might reflect badly on the firm. "Are you questioning my fitness for duty? We're suggesting," Deborah spoke carefully, "that you consider using some accumulated vacation time. Take a few weeks, handle your family situation, return when things are settled. Forced leave. Suggested leave, with pay. We value you, Cassandra, but we also need to protect the firm's interests." From what my mother's lies, Richard's expression hardened. From whatever's happening in your personal life that leads to concerned family members calling HR, from situations that might escalate, from instability that clients might perceive. I understood then. It didn't matter that I was the victim. The mere existence of drama tainted me. My mother knew exactly what she was doing. If she couldn't get my house, she'd destroy my career. "How long?" 2 weeks minimum, longer if needed. Deborah will help you transition your current projects. "This is unfair. I'm being punished for being victimized." "You're being given time to resolve personal matters," Deborah corrected. "Many employees would appreciate such flexibility." But I heard the subtext. Take the leave gracefully or face worse. Corporate politics demanded smooth surfaces, and I'd become distinctly rough. I returned to my desk in a daze, mechanically forwarding files, while Jennifer pretended not to watch. 2 weeks of forced leave meant 2 weeks without income beyond base salary. No commission, no bonuses. My carefully calculated mortgage budget suddenly felt precarious. My phone buzzed. "Emma. Heard you're taking some time off. Good. Maybe you'll gain perspective on what really matters." The grapevine worked fast. My mother had probably called her the moment HR confirmed the leave, another victory in their campaign to break me. By 4 o'clock, I'd transitioned everything and packed my personal items under the weight of collegial stares. The security guard who usually joked with me barely made eye contact as I handed over my key card. 2 weeks, he asked quietly. At least. Sorry to hear that. You're one of the good ones. But good ones didn't have family drama infiltrating their workplace. Good ones maintained the facade of stability that corporate culture demanded. I sat in my car boxes of personal items in the back seat and finally allowed tears to fall. My house, my finances, now my career. Every pillar of the life I'd built was under assault. My phone rang. Elizabeth. I heard about the workplace situation, she said without preamble. Your mother's escalating. How did you know? She called my office, too, claimed I was taking advantage of someone mentally unstable, threatened to report me to the Bar Association for ethics violations. Christ, I'm sorry. Don't apologize. This tells me we're winning. Desperate people make desperate moves. Winning, I just got forced out of my job. Temporarily. And now we have evidence of tortious interference with your employment. Add it to the lawsuit. Your damages just increased significantly. I can't afford 2 weeks without commission. You can't afford not to fight back. Your mother's showing her hand. She'll destroy everything you have to force compliance. We need to respond decisively. How? Press conference, media attention, expose their fraud publicly before they control the narrative completely. The thought of airing family business publicly made me nauseous. But Elizabeth was right. They'd already gone public through social media and workplace interference. Playing defense meant losing slowly. Tomorrow. I'll draft a statement tonight. Bring all your documentation. Let's show the world what family financial abuse really looks like. After the call, I drove home to my fortress of a house. The security system welcomed me with its electronic beeps cameras recording my solitary arrival. Inside the empty rooms that my family called selfish excess felt like sanctuary. But even sanctuary had costs. 2 weeks without full pay meant dipping into savings my mother had already depleted. The house that should have represented security now threatened to become a financial burden I couldn't maintain without my job. I walked through each room remembering the joy of closing day. 3 weeks ago, I'd held keys to my future. Now I held evidence of my family's betrayal and a career on forced pause. My laptop chimed with an email from Richard sent after hours. Cassandra. Off the record, I believe you're dealing with something difficult, but the firm has to protect itself. Resolve this quickly and quietly. Your position will be waiting, but only if the drama stops. R. The message was clear. Make the family situation disappear or make my career disappear. Corporate Morrison Investments had no room for messy human realities. Another email this from an unknown address. You don't know me, but I know your situation. My family did similar when I inherited my grandmother's house. Stay strong. Document everything. The flying monkeys always scatter when legal consequences arrive. You're not alone. A survivor. A tiny light in the darkness. Somewhere someone else had faced this battle and won. I spent the evening organizing documents for tomorrow's press conference. Bank statements showing theft, credit reports showing fraud, text messages showing manipulation, evidence that family could become predators and workplace could become weapon. As midnight approached, I stood in my home office, the room Emma had promised Sophia without my permission. Tomorrow I'd go public with the ugliest truth, that sometimes family love was just dressed up greed, and protecting yourself meant burning bridges others expected you to cross while being robbed. The house stood silent around me, cameras keeping watch, locks holding firm. I'd lost my family and potentially my career, but I still had truth. Sometimes that had to be enough. The courthouse steps were slick with morning drizzle as I climbed them, Elizabeth at my side and a folder of evidence clutched against my chest. 3 weeks after buying my home, I was seeking legal protection from the people who were supposed to love me most. Remember, Elizabeth coached as we approached security, stick to facts, no emotion. Judges see family drama daily. What sets your case apart is the documentation. The restraining order hearings were held in a small courtroom that smelled of old wood and desperation. I recognized the exhaustion on other petitioners' faces, the unique weariness that came from fighting people who knew exactly how to hurt you. Thompson versus Thompson, the bailiff called. My family had arrived en masse. Parents, Emma Brad, various aunts and uncles, a united front against the ungrateful daughter. Emma had dressed her children for maximum sympathy, the twins in matching dresses, Jaden in his only suit. Judge Patricia Hawthorne presided, her expression neutral as she reviewed preliminary documents. This is a petition for restraining orders against multiple family members. Ms. Thompson, you're represented by counsel. Yes, Your Honor. Elizabeth stood. We're seeking comprehensive protection orders based on documented harassment, financial fraud, and attempted property theft. Objection. A man I didn't recognize jumped up from my family's side. Carl Brenner representing the respondents. This is family disagreement blown out of proportion by a vindictive relative. So they'd hired Brad's cousin after all, the paralegal turned lawyer who'd been advising their schemes. We'll proceed orderly, Judge Hawthorne said firmly. Petitioner first. Elizabeth laid out our case with surgical precision. Each fraudulent transaction, each forged document, each threat and manipulation. The evidence mounted into a damning tower of family dysfunction. Exhibit A through F show unauthorized access to financial accounts. Exhibit G through L demonstrate identity theft for credit applications. Exhibits M through R document harassment at the petitioner's workplace. I watched my family's faces as their crimes were cataloged. My mother dabbed at tears. Emma held her children like shields. Brad's jaw clenched tighter with each revelation, but no one looked surprised. They'd known exactly what they were doing. Your Honor. Elizabeth continued, the respondents have engaged in a coordinated campaign to steal my client's home through fraud, manipulation, and intimidation. She requires court protection to maintain her safety and property rights. Ms. Thompson, Judge Hawthorne addressed me directly. Do you have anything to add? I stood on shaking legs. Your Honor, I love my family, but love shouldn't include theft, fraud, and the destruction of everything I've worked to build. I just want to live peacefully in the home I purchased legally. Mr. Brenner, your response. Brad's cousin strutted forward like a television lawyer. Your Honor, this is a tragic case of miscommunication within a close family. My clients admit to some financial mingling, but that's normal in their culture of mutual support. Financial mingling. Judge Hawthorne's eyebrow raised. Is that how you describe $5,000 in unauthorized withdrawals? Mrs. Margaret Thompson had legal access to those accounts, which she used to steal from her daughter, Elizabeth interjected. To prepare a home for family in need, Brenner countered. Emma Thompson faces homelessness with 3 young children. Any mother would help. By committing fraud, Judge Hawthorne raised a hand for silence. Mr. Brenner, do your clients deny the unauthorized credit applications? They believed they had implicit permission based on family discussions. Implicit permission to commit identity theft. The judge's tone could have frozen fire, and the workplace harassment concerned family checking on a relative showing signs of mental distress. I'm not mentally distressed. I couldn't stay quiet. They're angry I won't give them my house. You see the paranoia, Your Honor. Brenner gestured dramatically. My client's approach with love met with accusations of conspiracy. Emma stood suddenly. May I speak, Your Honor? Judge Hawthorne nodded. My sister. Emma's voice broke perfectly. Has everything, education, career savings, and now a house big enough for multiple families. We've struggled for years. When she bought that house, we thought finally our family would help. Instead, she changed locks like we're criminals. You are criminals, I said flatly. You stole money and committed fraud. We borrowed from family savings, something we've all done during hard times. Without asking, because you would have said no. You always say no when family needs help." Judge Hawthorne's gavel ended the exchange. "I've heard enough. Mrs. Emma Thompson, did you or did you not file paperwork claiming tenancy at your sister's house?" Emma glanced at Brenner, who nodded slightly. "We explored options based on promises made." "What promises?" "Family promises, unspoken understanding." "So no actual promises. Mr. Thompson," the judge addressed Brad, "did you participate in using fraudulently obtained credit cards?" Brad looked trapped. "Materials were ordered for home improvements that would benefit everyone. Improvements to a home you don't own paid for with credit cards obtained through fraud." "Your Honor." My father stood. "May an old man speak?" The judge nodded wearily. "My daughter Cassandra has forgotten family values. We're not perfect, but we acted from love. The restraining orders she seeks would prevent us from reconciling, from healing this wound." "The wound of grand larceny?" Judge Hawthorne asked dryly. "The wound of selfishness," he replied, "of choosing property over people." "I chose boundaries over theft," I corrected. "Enough," the judge commanded. "I've reviewed the evidence. The financial documentation alone warrants protection orders. The pattern of escalation concerns me greatly." "Your Honor." Brenner tried again. "Surely mediation would better serve." "Mediation requires good faith from both parties. I see none here." Judge Hawthorne began writing. "I'm granting comprehensive restraining orders against all named respondents. No contact with the petitioner. No approaching within 500 feet of her person, residence, or workplace. No third-party contact. No financial interference of any kind." "Your Honor!" Emma cried out. "She's my sister, my children's aunt. You're destroying our family." "Ma'am, your family's destruction preceded this court." The judge's voice was steel. "These orders are effective immediately and will remain in force for 2 years, renewable upon petition." "What about the criminal charges?" my mother asked desperately. "Those proceed separately through the prosecutor's office. I suggest you obtain criminal defense attorneys." The gavel fell with finality. My family erupted. Emma sobbing dramatically, Brad shouting about injustice, my parents staring at me with identical expressions of betrayal, the aunts and uncles muttering about family disgrace. Furthermore, Judge Hawthorne continued over the chaos. "Any violation of these orders will result in immediate arrest and prosecution. This includes social media contact, flying monkeys, or any form of harassment." "Flying monkeys?" Brad asked. "Sending others to contact the petitioner on your behalf," Elizabeth clarified. "The judge is wise to your playbook." We were escorted out first standard procedure to prevent corridor confrontations, but I heard Emma's voice echoing behind, "This isn't over. You can't restraining order. Away blood." Outside, Portland's drizzle had become rain. Elizabeth opened an umbrella over us both. "That went well," she said. "Judge Hawthorne saw through their manipulation perfectly." "Did it go well? I just got legal protection from my entire family." "Which you needed. They would have escalated until someone got hurt, financially or physically." My phone buzzed with notifications. The family group chat I'd blocked was apparently screenshotting messages to flying monkeys who forwarded them to me. Declarations of war, promises of revenge, vows to destroy me for destroying the family. But between the vitriol, another message from Sophia. "Proud of you, Aunt Cassie. Mom's wrong. You're protecting yourself, not being selfish." One voice of sanity and a chorus of dysfunction. "What happens now?" I asked Elizabeth. "Now we wait for criminal charges. The restraining orders make any further contact illegal, which should give you peace." "And my job?" "We document the orders, show your employer you've handled the situation legally. Most companies respect court intervention." As we reached our cars, she turned to me. "You did the right thing. It doesn't feel like it now, but someday you'll look back and be grateful you stood firm." I drove home through rain-slicked streets past the suburban houses that looked so normal from outside. Did any of them hide family wars like mine? How many people smiled at neighbors while battling relatives in court? My security system greeted me with its familiar beeps. The cameras showed empty perimeter. For now. The restraining orders were just paper, and paper only stopped people who respected law. I made tea and sat in my kitchen listening to rain-hit windows my family would never again look through. The house felt larger somehow, echoing with the absence of people who'd never actually lived here, but had haunted every room with their entitlement. My laptop showed 17 emails from extended family, all sent before the restraining orders took effect. I deleted them unread. Whatever guilt or manipulation they contained couldn't hurt me anymore. Not legally. But emotionally, I touched the photo on my refrigerator. Last Christmas, all of us smiling around my parents' tree. How had loving family become litigated enemies in just 3 weeks? The answer sat in my filing cabinet. Bank statements, credit reports, evidence of systematic betrayal. Love had become greed. Help had become theft. Family had become fraud. The rain intensified, and I thought about Noah's flood. Sometimes destruction was necessary for new beginnings. My family had forced me to build an ark of legal protection, and now I sailed alone toward whatever came next. The house stood solid around me, locked secure cameras, vigilant restraining orders filed. I'd won every battle so far. But as night fell on my fortress, I wondered if any war was worth winning when victory meant standing alone in the ruins of every relationship that had shaped you. Then I remembered the theft, the lies, the attempt to steal not just my house but my future. Some wars I decided you didn't choose. They chose you. The call came 3 days after the restraining orders were granted. An unknown number with our area code. I almost didn't answer, fearing another flying monkey. But something made me pick up. "Cassandra, this is your grandmother Helen." The voice was older but unmistakably sharp, carrying the same steel I remembered from childhood before she'd vanished from family gatherings when I was 12. "Grandma Helen," I sank into my couch, stunned. "How did you get my number?" "Same way I found out about your situation, a private investigator. When you reach my age and have my resources, you learn to keep tabs on family, even estranged ones. I didn't know you still watched us." Hard not to watch a train wreck, dear, especially when it follows such familiar patterns. Your parents pulled the same stunts with me 22 years ago, nearly succeeded too. Elizabeth mentioned something about that. Smart lawyer. Yes, I hired her firm back then. Different attorney, same excellent judgment. A pause, then. "I've been debating calling since this mess started. Seeing them destroy another generation decided me. Why did you disappear? Mom always said you abandoned the family." Helen's laugh was bitter honey. Of course she did. Easier than admitting they tried to steal my retirement accounts and investment properties. When I refused to sign over my assets, for the family good, they accused me of senility and tried for conservatorship. They what? Oh yes, your father was smoother than more convincing. Had doctors lined up to testify about my declining mental state? If I hadn't hired excellent lawyers and moved quickly, I'd have lost everything. I thought of my mother calling my workplace claiming mental instability. The pattern was identical, just updated for a new generation. They never told us any of this. Predators rarely advertise their failures. After I won the legal battles, they painted me as a selfish old woman who chose money over family. Sound familiar? Painfully familiar. I pulled a throw blanket around my shoulders, feeling suddenly cold. Is that why you stayed away, the legal battles? Partly, but mostly because I realized a hard truth. Some people see family as prey, not pack. Your parents are takers, Cassandra. Always have been. They'll consume everything you've built and call it love. Emma's the same way. Learned behavior. Though I heard through my sources she's added her own innovations. The fake tenant scheme was creative, I'll give her that. You know about everything. Good investigators are worth their fees. I know about the theft, the fraud, the workplace interference, classic escalation pattern. They start with emotional manipulation, move to financial exploitation, then scorched earth when you resist. How do you stand it being completely cut off? Helen was quiet for a moment. The first year was hell. I'd raised your father, loved him despite his flaws. Watching him try to destroy me for money broke something fundamental. But you know what I discovered? What? Peace. For the first time in decades. Blessed peace. No drama, no guilt trips, no constant demands disguised as emergencies. I could breathe without calculating the cost. But you're alone. Am I have friends who chose me, not blood obligation. I have a book club that discusses ideas, not family gossip. I have neighbors who respect boundaries. I have a life unburdened by vampires calling themselves relatives. Her words painted a picture I'd never imagined. Freedom from the constant emotional labor of managing family expectations. Where do you live now? Asheville. Lovely mountain home with gardens and no forwarding address your parents can find. Would you like to visit? I'd enjoy meeting the granddaughter who inherited my spine. I'd like that. Tears pricked my eyes. I could use some family who understands. Family, she mused. Such a loaded word. Let's say I'm a genetic relative who respects your autonomy. Much healthier framework. Grandma Helen, did you keep documentation from your battles with them? My lawyer mentioned you might share it. Everything. 22 years of evidence that this is pattern, not isolated incident. Your parents have a history. Failed business schemes, bankruptcies, they hid other relatives they've targeted. Would you like copies? Please, it might help with the criminal cases. I'll courier them tomorrow. Cassandra, may I share something else? Of course. The guilt you're feeling, it's engineered. They've trained you since birth to prioritize their needs over your own. Every boundary you set feels like betrayal because they program that response. It's not real, it's conditioning. It feels real, especially when I'm alone in this house they call selfish excess. 3 bedrooms is selfish excess. I have 6 and live alone. Should I donate them to struggling families too? She chuckled. That house represents your achievement, every room earned through your labor. Don't let them reframe success as sin. Mom says family shares everything. Your mother says whatever gets her access to other people's everything. Tell me, when you were struggling in college, eating ramen and working 2 jobs, how much did family share with you? I thought back. They said struggle built character. But now your character's built, and successful, suddenly sharing is mandatory, convenient philosophy. Emma threw that in my face, said I had help, her old car, occasional groceries. Token gestures that cost them little but created infinite obligation. Classic manipulation. Real help doesn't come with lifetime interest rates. We talked for an hour, her voice growing warmer as we moved from trauma to normal conversation. She asked about my work, my interests, my life beyond family drama. No one had done that in weeks. Every conversation had become about the house, the conflict, the choosing of sides. I should go, she finally said. But Cassandra, you're going to survive this. Better than survive. You're going to thrive. And someday you'll look back and be grateful they showed their true colors before they could do worse damage. Worse than this. Oh dear, this is just money and property. I've seen families destroy souls. You got out with yours intact. After we hung up, I sat in the gathering dusk, processing her words. Somewhere in North Carolina, a grandmother I'd been told abandoned us was living her best life free from the parasites who'd tried to drain her dry. My phone buzzed with an email from the prosecutor's office. Criminal charges were moving forward. Fraud, identity theft, and grand larceny for my mother. Conspiracy charges for the others. Trial dates would be set soon. The irony wasn't lost on me. The family who preached togetherness had scattered the moment legal consequences arrived. No unity in criminal defense. Every person for themselves when prison became possible. I walked through my house, seeing it differently after Helen's words. Not selfish excess, but appropriate reward. Not empty rooms, but peaceful spaces. Not isolation, but insulation from those who'd proven themselves unsafe. My security system beeped. Motion at the front door. Camera showed a delivery driver leaving a package. Inside, I found a bottle of champagne and a card. To new beginnings and old wisdom, your grandmother who chooses you. H. The champagne was excellent, probably expensive. I poured a glass and toasted the empty room. To Helen, who'd fought this battle before me. To Sophia, who'd chosen truth over family loyalty. To Elizabeth, who'd provided legal weapons for a war I'd never wanted. And to myself, for buying a house, for changing locks, for saying no, for breaking the pattern before it broke me. The champagne bubbled like hope. Somewhere my family was raging about restraining orders and criminal charges. But here, in my paid-for house, with my intact boundaries, I raised a glass to the grandmother who'd shown me something beyond their manipulation. A future. The package from Grandmother Helen arrived the next morning via bonded courier, 2 banker's boxes that required signature and ID verification. I carried them to my dining room table with the reverence due to archaeological artifacts, which in a way they were. Evidence of family patterns dating back decades. Inside, Helen had organized everything with military precision, labeled folders, chronological ordering, cross-referenced indexes. The thoroughness spoke of someone who'd learned that details win wars. 1998-2000, The Business Ventures, read the first section. I opened it to find loan documents, bankruptcy filings, and correspondence that made my stomach turn. My parents had convinced Helen to invest in 3 separate businesses, a restaurant, a daycare center, and a mysterious import opportunity. Each venture collapsed within months, taking Helen's money with it. But the real revelation was in the margins. Helen's handwritten notes documented the truth. Restaurant never opened, funds diverted to personal use. Daycare license never applied for, money spent on vacations. Import company existed only on paper, complete fabrication. One letter from my father made me nauseous. Mom, if you really loved us, you'd understand business involves risk. Your hesitation to help further shows how material wealth has corrupted your priorities. The same manipulation, the same guilt, the same reframing of theft as love. The next folder, 2001, the conservatorship attempt. This was darker. Medical evaluations my parents had scheduled without Helen's knowledge. Reports from doctors who'd never examined her declaring concerns about financial judgment. Legal petitions claiming Helen was being influenced by outside parties to withhold family support. Helen's defense was meticulous. Counter-evaluations from legitimate doctors. Financial records showing excellent money management. Character witnesses testifying to her mental sharpness. She'd won, but the legal fees had been staggering. Over $40,000 to defend against her own son. 2002-2003, the escalation. After losing the conservatorship battle, my parents had turned vicious. Police reports showed multiple false welfare checks called on Helen. Complaints filed with her HOA about imaginary violations. Her employer contacted with concerns about her stability. The parallels to my situation were eerie. Different decades, same playbook. I photographed everything, uploading files to secured cloud storage. Elizabeth would want originals, but I needed my own copies. As I worked, patterns emerged that turned my stomach. My parents had done this to others, not just Helen, but aunts, uncles, cousins. Anyone who achieved financial success became a target. The family reunions I remembered from childhood took on new meaning. How many relatives had disappeared, not from indifference, but from self-preservation? One name kept appearing in the later documents, Patricia Morrison. It took me a moment to recognize it. Aunt Patricia's maiden name. The same aunt who'd condemned me at the family meeting had once filed a restraining order against my parents for financial harassment and attempted theft. I found the case details. Aunt Patricia had inherited a small sum from her grandmother. Within weeks, my parents had concocted a story about Emma needing emergency surgery and convinced Patricia to loan the entire inheritance. When Patricia later discovered Emma had never been sick, she'd tried to recover the funds. The resulting family war had been brutal but brief. Patricia had capitulated, choosing family peace over justice. The restraining order was withdrawn, the theft forgotten, and Patricia had transformed from victim to enforcer. Stockholm Syndrome Family Edition. My laptop chimed with an email from Elizabeth. "Can you come to the office? Urgent development." I packed Helen's evidence carefully and drove to her building, my newly paranoid mind checking mirrors for anyone following. The restraining orders should protect me, but paper only stopped the law-abiding. Elizabeth met me in the lobby, her expression grim. "Conference room 3, we have a situation." Inside, Marcus Chen was already set up with multiple screens showing financial data. "What's wrong?" I set down the boxes from Helen. "Your family just escalated beyond anything we anticipated," Elizabeth began. "Marcus discovered something during routine monitoring." He turned a screen toward me. "Remember how we froze your credit standard identity theft protection?" "Yes." "Well, that only works for credit applications in your actual name. Your family got creative." The screen showed business registration documents. 3 separate LLCs registered in Delaware, all using variations of my name and social security number. Each LLC had applied for business credit lines, some already approved. They created fake companies in my name with sophisticated documentation, fake contracts, revenue projections, even tax ID numbers that trace back to you. Total credit exposure across all 3 over $200,000. The room spun. $200,000. And that's just what we've found so far. Delaware's privacy laws make tracking difficult. There could be more. Elizabeth pulled up another document. It gets worse. 1 LLC already defaulted on the equipment loan. Guess who's being sued? But I didn't sign anything. I didn't create these companies. Proving that takes time. Meanwhile, your credit is destroyed and lawsuits pile up. She paused. "This is beyond family fraud, Cassandra. This is organized crime." I sank into a chair, overwhelmed. Every time I thought I'd seen the depths of their betrayal, a new chasm opened. How do we fight this? Aggressively. FBI involvement now. This crosses state lines. Federal charges carry real prison time. But Elizabeth hesitated. "What? Your parents are facing potential decades in prison. Your mother especially as the primary name on most fraud. Are you prepared for that? Was I, the woman who'd sung me lullabies, facing 20 years in federal prison? But then I thought of the systematic destruction they'd attempted, of Helen fighting the same battle 20 years ago, of Aunt Patricia, and who knows how many others. They prepared for it when they committed the crimes." I said finally. "I'm just defending myself." Marcus pulled up more screens. "There's something else. The private investigator tracking your family's activities, he found where the stolen money went." Bank records filled the screen. The $5,000 from my savings had immediately transferred to multiple accounts. Some went to Emma and Brad, but the largest portion, $3,000, had gone to a casino account in my father's name. They stole my savings for gambling. "Your father has markers at 3 casinos, owes over $50,000. The house scheme wasn't just about Emma, it was about their own debts." Each revelation felt like another death. The parents I'd thought were misguided were actually desperate gamblers willing to destroy their daughter for casino money. "The evidence from your grandmother," Elizabeth gestured to my boxes, "documents everything. They've been doing this for decades." We spent 3 hours reviewing Helen's files, building a RICO case that showed clear patterns of organized fraud. By the time we finished, the conference table looked like a crime scene photo. Evidence of financial murder spread across its surface. "With this," Elizabeth said finally, "we can destroy them. Completely. Every scheme exposed, every victim identified, every crime prosecuted. But Cassandra, this will be public. Media will cover it. Your family's destruction will be complete and visible. As opposed to my private destruction, they planned. She smiled grimly. Fair point. Marcus, contact the FBI. Let's turn over everything. As Marcus made calls, I stared at the evidence surrounding me. 22 years of fraud, dozens of victims, hundreds of thousands stolen, all by people who preached family values while picking family pockets. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, then recognized the area code, Asheville, where Helen lived. Saw the FBI alert on my monitoring. They found the Delaware companies. I'm proud of you for fighting back. Remember, you didn't destroy the family. You revealed what was already destroyed. Love H. Elizabeth returned from Marcus's call. Federal agents want to meet tomorrow. They're very interested, especially with the interstate elements and the pattern evidence from Helen. Will my family know? Not until arrests are made. Federal investigations move quietly until they strike. I thought of Emma's children innocent in all this, of Sophia who'd tried to warn me. What about the kids? CPS will be involved. Extended family can petition for custody or foster care if needed. But Cassandra, her voice gentled. That's not your responsibility. Their parents made choices. Choices, such a simple word for such devastating decisions. My parents chose theft over honesty. Emma chose entitlement over effort. Brad chose schemes over work. And I chose truth over family. The drive home felt different. I wasn't just protecting a house anymore. I was ending a generational pattern of predation. Helen had tried, but ultimately just escaped. I was ensuring no one else would suffer. My security system welcomed me home to my fortress. But for the first time since this began, the house felt less like a bunker and more like evidence of victory. They'd wanted to steal it. Instead, their attempts had exposed crimes that would end their ability to steal from anyone. I poured a glass of Helen's champagne and made a toast to unintended consequences. My family had declared war on the wrong person at the wrong time, with the wrong methods. Tomorrow, the FBI would begin dismantling their fraud network. But tonight, I sat surrounded by evidence of their lifetime of crimes, grateful for a grandmother who documented everything and a lawyer who'd known exactly how to use it. The house was mine. The evidence was damning. And the family who'd tried to destroy me had only destroyed themselves. Poetic justice delivered with federal authority. The FBI raid happened at dawn 3 days later. I knew because Agent Sarah Chen called me at 6:15, her voice professionally neutral. Ms. Thompson, we're executing the warrants now, simultaneous raids at 4 locations. Are you somewhere safe? I'm home, they can't come here, restraining orders. Good. Stay inside, doors locked. People do desperate things when cornered. I made coffee with shaking hands, watching news alerts pop up on my phone. Federal agents raid multiple homes in fraud investigation. No names yet, but I knew my family was waking to battering rams and Miranda rights. By 9, my lawyer called. They got everyone. Your parents, Emma, Brad, even some extended family members we didn't know were involved. It's bigger than we thought, Cassandra. How much bigger? The FBI found 12 more victims over 30 years. Your family ran a cottage industry of fraud. Helen's evidence broke it wide open. I felt numb, vindicated but empty. The family I'd loved had never existed, just predators wearing familiar faces. There's more, Elizabeth continued. Your family's lawyer, Brad's cousin. He's been disbarred pending investigation. Turns out he knew about the fraud and facilitated it. He's facing charges, too. Jesus! The federal prosecutor wants to meet with you tomorrow. You're their star witness, but there's something else. Your family wants to meet. Today. Their lawyer, a real one this time, reached out. They're offering full restitution in exchange for you advocating for leniency. They want me to help them. Ironic, isn't it? They'll be brought to a neutral location, Marshall's present. You don't have to go, but it might give you closure. Closure. As if 29 years of lies could be closed like a book. But I heard myself saying yes. The meeting was arranged for that afternoon at Elizabeth's office. Federal marshals would transport my family from holding and ensure security. One last family gathering with armed guards instead of covered dishes. I arrived early, hands trembling as I signed in. Elizabeth waited with the federal prosecutor James Morrison. No relation to my employer, thankfully. Ms. Thompson. Morrison shook my hand. I want you to know how brave this is. Family cases are our hardest prosecutions because witnesses often recant. Your strength is admirable. I don't feel strong. The strongest rarely do. Now, ground rules for this meeting. No physical contact, no direct threats. If anyone becomes aggressive, marshals intervene immediately. You can leave at any time. The conference room had been arranged with 2 tables separated by several feet, close enough to talk, far enough to prevent lunging. I sat with Elizabeth while Morrison positioned himself to the side. The door opened. They looked smaller in orange jumpsuits. My father, who'd always seemed imposing, appeared shrunken. My mother's perfect hair hung limp. Emma's designer pride had withered into prisoner number 48291. Brad kept his eyes down, shoulders hunched. Behind them, 2 marshals stood alert. Cassandra. My mother spoke first, voice breaking. Sweetheart, what have you done? What have I done? The question was so absurd I almost laughed. I reported crimes. What have you done? We're your family. You're criminals who happen to share my DNA. How can you say that? Emma leaned forward, marshal tensing. I'm your sister. My children are your blood. Blood you were willing to spill for my house. We were desperate. She was crying now, but I'd seen her tears weaponized too often to care. Do you know what it's like watching your sister have everything while your babies suffer? Your babies suffered because their parents chose crime over work. Work. Brad finally looked up, eyes blazing. I work physical labor that breaks bodies while you sit at computers getting rich. Getting rich, I make $60,000 a year and saved every penny for that house. Pennies, my father spat, while we juggled real expenses, while we sacrificed. Sacrificed you stole from Grandma Helen, from Aunt Patricia, from dozens of people who trusted you. We borrowed during hard times. You ran fraud schemes for 30 years. I pulled out Helen's documents, slamming them on the table. Restaurant that never opened, daycare that was fantasy import business that existed only to steal money. That's not borrowing. That's professional theft. Silence. For the first time, faced with evidence of their decades of crime, they had no manipulation ready. You want to know what I've done? I continued. I've ended it. No more victims. No more borrowing that's never repaid. No more family members disappearing when they realize what you are. What we are. My mother's voice turned venomous. We're people who stayed together, who chose family over money, unlike Helen who abandoned us, unlike Patricia who betrayed us, unlike you. Helen didn't abandon you. She escaped. Patricia didn't betray you. She tried to protect herself before you broke her down. And me, I'm just the first one strong enough to hold you accountable. Accountable. My father laughed bitterly. Your mother faces 20 years. I face 15. Emma and Brad 10 each. Even cousins who just helped with paperwork face 5. That's your accountability, destroying your entire family. You destroyed yourselves the moment you chose crime. We chose survival. By stealing from your own mother, by defrauding your daughter, by running credit scams on anyone who achieved success. That's not survival. That's predation. Emma sobbed louder. My babies will go to foster care because of you. They'll go to foster care because their parents are criminals. Sophia already asked to live with me. That stopped her cold. What? Your 13-year-old daughter has been documenting your crimes for months. She's been secretly recording your planning sessions, your fraud discussions, your manipulation tactics. She's testifying for the prosecution. The blood drained from Emma's face. You turned my daughter against me. You turned your daughter against you by making her witness to fraud. She came to me because she was tired of watching her parents scheme instead of work. You poisoned her mind. I offered her truth, something foreign in your household. Brad lunged up Marshall, immediately restraining him. You self-righteous bitch, you've destroyed everything. Sit down, the marshal commanded, hand on his weapon. Morrison spoke for the first time. Mr. Thompson, control yourself, or this meeting ends. Brad sat, but his rage filled the room. You want truth, Cassie. Here's truth. We targeted you because you were always separate, always thought you were better. Too good for family gatherings, too important with your college degree and office job. I went to every gathering until I realized they were hunting grounds. You didn't target me because I was separate. You targeted me because I had something to steal. Same thing, Emma said quietly. Having more than family means you're already separate, already choosing things over people. No. I stood done with their twisted logic. Having more than family means I worked while you schemed, saved while you spent, built while you destroyed. You didn't target me for being separate. You hated me for succeeding honestly. Honestly? My mother laughed harsh and broken. You think your corporate job is honest, moving numbers around for rich people? At least we kept money in the family. You kept money you stole. That's not family. That's a crime syndicate. Which you've destroyed, my father said flatly. Generations of mutual support ended because you wanted a house to yourself. Mutual support. Name one time you supported me without expecting lifetime repayment. One time you gave without calculating returns. One time you helped without hidden costs. Silence again, because there were no such times. Every gesture had been a loan with infinite interest. We're done here, I told Morrison. They're not sorry for their crimes, only for getting caught. Wait, Emma cried. What about my children? What about them? They need family. They need you. They need parents who aren't criminals. I'll petition for custody of Sophia if she wants. The twins can go to Brad's sister in Oregon, the one you haven't stolen from yet. You planned this. My mother's voice was deadly quiet. You bought that house knowing we'd need it. You set us up. I bought that house for me. You set yourselves up with 30 years of crime. I gathered my documents, Elizabeth beside me. At the door, I turned back one last time. 4 people in orange, 4 predators defanged. You want to know the real tragedy I would have helped if you'd asked honestly, if you'd shown real need instead of manufactured crisis, if you'd treated me like family instead of a resource. But you couldn't, because taking is all you know. We love you, my mother called out. No, you loved what you could take from me. There's a difference. I left them there, marshals preparing to transport them back to holding. In the elevator, Elizabeth squeezed my shoulder. That was brutal. That was necessary. Did you see no remorse? No recognition? They still think they're victims. Criminals usually do. The prosecutor says with Helen's evidence and the FBI findings, plea deals are unlikely. They're facing maximum sentences. Good. But it wasn't good. It was necessary, like cauterizing a wound. The family I'd grown up loving was gone, replaced by the criminals they'd always been. The confrontation had shown me the truth. They weren't capable of change, only of finding new victims. Outside, Portland's sun broke through clouds. I stood on sidewalk where 3 weeks ago I'd climbed these same steps, seeking protection from people who should have protected me. My phone buzzed. Sophia FBI agents came to school, gave them all my recordings. Mom's gonna hate me forever, isn't she? I typed back, she'll hate that you chose truth over crime. That's her failure, not yours. Proud of you. Can I really come live with you? If the court approves, yes, but it won't be easy. Easier than watching my parents go to prison for stupid schemes. At least you just work for your money. Just work. Such a simple concept my family had never grasped. I drove home to my fortress no longer needed. The restraining orders were pointless with my family in federal custody. The security system overkill with the threats neutralized. But I kept them anyway. because the real lesson of the last month wasn't about protection from my family. It was about protecting the life I'd built from anyone who'd try to take it. Family strangers or anyone else who confused my success with their opportunity. The house stood solid in afternoon sun. Mine, earned, defended, and now finally peaceful. 2 days after the confrontation, I sat across from federal prosecutor James Morrison in his office, surrounded by case files that contained my family's financial crimes, spanning 3 decades. He'd called the meeting urgently, and his expression suggested complications. "Ms. Thompson, we have a situation. Your family has hired new representation, a firm specializing in federal criminal defense. They're proposing a deal." "What kind of deal?" He slid a document across his desk. "Full restitution to all victims, including you. Forfeiture of all assets obtained through fraud. Complete cooperation in identifying additional victims. In exchange, they want you to advocate for minimum sentences." I read through the proposal, my hands steady despite the emotions churning inside. The restitution numbers were staggering. Over $500,000 to be divided among victims. Where would this money come from? They claim to be broke. That's the interesting part. Turns out your parents have hidden assets. Offshore accounts, properties in other states under shell companies, even a substantial life insurance policy they've been paying into for years. The FBI's forensic accountants found it all. They had money this entire time. Approximately $800,000 in various forms. They've been crying poverty while sitting on a fortune built from their schemes. The betrayal deepened. Every time they'd begged for help, claimed desperation painted themselves as struggling, all while hoarding stolen wealth. "There's more," Morrison continued. "Emma and Brad had their own hidden assets. Cryptocurrency accounts, online gambling winnings never reported to the IRS, even a boat registered in Florida. Another $200,000 between them." A boat. I laughed, but it was hollow. Emma told her kids they were sleeping in closets while she owned a boat. Apparently, Brad won it in a poker game last year. They've been renting it out for income, all unreported. I set down the document. So they want me to help reduce their sentences after discovering they're not just thieves, but wealthy thieves who manipulated everyone with false poverty. Essentially, yes. But here's why I called you in. The victims fund they're proposing would recover money for people who never knew they were defrauded. Some of your relatives lost money decades ago and wrote it off as family bad luck. This deal would make them whole. What are the proposed sentences? With your advocacy and their cooperation, your mother 5 years, your father 4 years, Emma and Brad 2 years, each possibly served as house arrest with their children. Without your advocacy, they're facing the maximums I mentioned before. And if I refuse, they go to trial. The evidence is overwhelming, so conviction is certain. But trials are traumatic for victims, expensive for taxpayers, and the hidden assets might disappear into legal fees. You'd eventually get restitution, but it could take years. I stood and walked to his window, looking out at the federal courthouse where my family would either take deals or face juries. What do you think I should do as a prosecutor? Take the deal, get restitution for victims, avoid trial trauma, close the cases efficiently. As a human, that's your call. You've been through hell. Can I add conditions? Such as mandatory financial counseling, lifetime prohibition on accessing credit in others' names, monthly check-ins with probation specifically about any family financial entanglements, and they pay for therapy. For me, for Sophia, for any victim who wants it. Morrison made notes. I can propose those additions. Anything else? They acknowledge in writing the full extent of their crimes. No minimizing, no excuses, no blame shifting. A complete admission that details every scheme, every victim, every dollar stolen. That's harsh. That's accountability. They want my help. They give me truth, all of it, on record. I'll present it to their lawyers. You have 48 hours to decide. I left his office and drove aimlessly, eventually finding myself at Mount Tabor Park, walking the trails I called Grandmother Helen. They found the hidden money. She wasn't surprised. Of course they did. Your parents always were squirrels hoarding nuts while crying starvation. Should I help them? Wrong question, dear. Should you help their other victims? That's what this is really about. But it feels like letting them win. Shorter sentences for decades of crime. Prison isn't winning, Cassandra. It's consequence. Whether it's 5 years or 15, they're felons forever. They'll never work in finance, never pass background checks, never escape what they've done. You're not choosing between justice and injustice. You're choosing between different forms of justice. What would you do? Helen was quiet for a moment. I'd take the deal with your conditions, not for them, but for the other victims, and for myself, to close this chapter definitively rather than dragging through trials. After we hung up, I sat on a bench overlooking the city. My phone buzzed with messages I'd been ignoring, but one stood out, from Sophia. Aunt Cassie, the social worker, says if you take custody, I have to do counseling. Is that okay? I know therapy is expensive. I replied immediately. Therapy is necessary, not expensive. Your parents will pay for it as part of their plea deal. They have money for therapy. They have money for a lot of things. They just chose not to spend it on their kids. Oh. A pause then. I recorded them talking about hidden accounts last month. Want the file? My brilliant, brave niece, still gathering evidence even after her world imploded. Send it to the prosecutor. Every bit helps. That evening, I met with Elizabeth to discuss the ultimatum. She reviewed everything with her typical thoroughness. Your conditions are reasonable and likely to be accepted, the written admissions especially. Those protect you from future manipulation or revisionist history. Will they actually serve time? With these deals, yes. Federal prison, not county jail. Your parents will likely go to minimum security, but it's still prison. Emma and Brad might get ankle monitors if the judge considers their children, but that's house arrest, not freedom. And the restitution. Paid from seized assets before they can touch a penny. You'll receive approximately $60,000. Your stolen savings, the fraudulent charges, plus damages. Other victims will be made whole. It's a good deal, Cassandra. Then why do I feel like I'm betraying justice? Because you're a good person who was raised by criminals. They programmed you to feel guilty for protecting yourself. This isn't betrayal, it's mercy. More than they showed their victims. I made my decision that night alone in my house that had started everything. The building that my family saw as their entitlement had become the catalyst for their downfall. Poetic justice in 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. The next morning, I called Morrison. I'll accept the deal with my conditions, but I want to be there when they sign the admissions. I want to hear them acknowledge every crime. That can be arranged. Their lawyers have already agreed to your terms. They're desperate to avoid maximum sentences. 2 days later, I sat in a federal building conference room as my family signed their confessions. 23 pages detailing 30 years of fraud. Each signature another nail in the coffin of their false narratives. My mother's hand shook as she signed. I, Margaret Thompson, admit to the following crimes. My father read his aloud voice monotone. Fraudulent representation to obtain money. Identity theft of multiple victims. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Emma wept through hers. Attempted theft by deception. False representation of tenancy, participation in organized fraud. Brad was the only one who met my eyes. This is what you wanted. Your family humiliated and destroyed. This is what you earned. I just stopped you from earning more. When the signatures were complete, Morrison gathered the documents. Ms. Thompson has agreed to advocate for lenient sentences based on your cooperation and restitution. Her statement will be considered at sentencing. Cassandra. My mother reached out Marshall, stopping her. We're still family. No, we share DNA. Family doesn't steal from each other. We were desperate. You were greedy. The hidden accounts prove that. Every tear about poverty, every guilt trip about struggling, all performed while sitting on stolen hundreds of thousands. That money was for emergencies. That money was stolen from your mother, from your sister, from cousins who trusted you. You hoarded victims' money while claiming poverty. That's not desperation. That's evil. Emma spoke quietly. What about forgiveness you're taking, Sophia? Isn't that enough? Forgiveness requires repentance. You're still justifying, still minimizing, still painting yourselves as victims. When you truly understand what you've done, maybe forgiveness becomes possible. Not today. I left them there with their lawyers and shortened sentences. In the parking garage, Elizabeth waited. How do you feel? Empty, relieved, sad, angry, everything at once. That's normal. You've just closed a chapter written in trauma. Healing takes time. Will they serve their full sentences? Probably not. Good behavior prison overcrowding. They'll likely serve 60%, but they'll be felons forever. Background checks, voting restrictions, employment limitations. They traded their futures for your house and lost both. I drove home thinking about ultimatums. They'd given me one first. Surrender your house or lose your family. I'd countered with my own, admit your crimes or face maximum consequences. In the end, we'd both followed through. They'd lost family and freedom. I'd lost family, but gained freedom. The math, like everything else they'd taught me, didn't add up the way they'd expected. But for the first time in my life, the equation balanced in my favor. 6 months after the confrontation, I stood in a federal courtroom watching my family receive their sentences. The plea deals had gone through, my victim impact statement had been read, and now Judge Catherine Walsh delivered the consequences of 30 years of fraud. Margaret Thompson, you are sentenced to 60 months in federal prison followed by 3 years supervised release. You will pay restitution as previously agreed and attend mandatory financial counseling. My mother stood straight, finally looking her age. The designer clothes had been replaced by a conservative suit, probably borrowed from her lawyer. She'd aged a decade in 6 months. Richard Thompson, 48 months federal prison, 3 years supervised release, full restitution, and lifetime prohibition on financial services work. My father nodded once his usual bluster completely deflated. The man who'd preached family values while stealing from his own mother looked broken. Emma Morrison, 24 months federal prison with recommendation for minimum security facility, followed by 2 years house arrest with electronic monitoring, custody arrangements for minor children to be determined by family court. Emma sobbed quietly. Her children sat in the back row, Sophia with me, the twins, with Brad's sister who'd flown in from Oregon. They decided seeing their parents sentenced was important for closure, though I questioned the wisdom. Bradley Morrison, 24 months federal prison, 2 years supervised release. The court notes your cooperation in identifying cryptocurrency assets hidden from initial disclosure. Brad had turned state's evidence against my parents for a reduced sentence, proving there was truly no honor among thieves, even married ones. Before we conclude, Judge Walsh continued, I want to address something. In 30 years on the bench, I've rarely seen family fraud of this magnitude. The defendants didn't just steal money, they stole trust, security, and peace of mind from dozens of victims. She looked directly at my parents. You raised your children to be either victims or predators. That Ms. Cassandra Thompson broke this cycle shows remarkable strength. That Ms. Sophia Morrison chose truth over family loyalty at 13 shows the pattern can end. The court orders immediate remand to custody. Sentences begin today. The marshals moved forward. My mother turned, searching for me in the gallery. Our eyes met across the courtroom. 30 years of complicated love reduced to this moment. I'm sorry, she mouthed. I nodded once. Not forgiveness, just acknowledgement. She'd finally apologized without qualifiers or manipulation. Too late to matter, but something. They were led away in chains and I felt nothing. The crushing grief I'd expected didn't come, just empty resolution like finishing a difficult book. Outside the courthouse, Portland's December rain felt cleansing. Sophia stood beside me, nearly as tall as me now, holding her younger sister's hands. "Is it over?" Mia asked, 7 years old and confused by everything. "The court part is over," I told her gently. "The healing part is just beginning." Brad's sister, Diane, approached carefully. "Thank you for everything you've done for the girls. I know this wasn't easy." "None of it was easy. How are you managing?" "Day by day. The twins are in therapy doing better. My husband's been wonderful about the sudden expansion of our family." She paused. "I need to apologize. I knew something was off with Brad and Emma's finances, but I looked away. Easier than confronting family." We all looked away until we couldn't anymore. "Sophia's things are in my car. You're sure about this?" I looked at my niece, who'd chosen truth over parents. "If she's sure, I'm sure." "I'm sure," Sophia said firmly. "My parents made their choices. Now I make mine." We transferred boxes and bags to my car, the possessions of a 13-year-old life disrupted. The twins hugged their sister goodbye promises to video chat daily, to visit monthly, to stay sisters, despite separation. Elizabeth met us at my house, Sophia's house now too. We'd spent weeks preparing converting my office to a teenager's bedroom, enrolling her in the local school, setting up counseling. "How was it?" Elizabeth asked. "Final," I said simply. "They're gone, the money's being distributed, the crimes are public record. It's done." "Except the healing part," she reminded me gently. That evening, Sophia and I unpacked her room. Posters replaced my professional certificates. Young adult novels filled shelves that had held financial guides. The space transformed from office to sanctuary. Aunt Cassie. She held a photo. Their last family Christmas before everything exploded. Do you think they ever really loved us? Or were we always just opportunities? I sat on her new bed, choosing words carefully. I think love and greed got tangled in their minds until they couldn't tell the difference. They loved us the only way they knew how, possessively, conditionally, destructively. But yes, underneath all the schemes, I think there was love, just not the healthy kind. Is that why you fought so hard, because you loved them too? I fought because I loved myself more than I feared their anger. That's the lesson, Sophia. Love people, but love yourself enough to say no when they harm you. She nodded, wise beyond her years. That's why I recorded them. I loved them, but loved truth more. And that took incredible courage. We ordered pizza that night, eating in the kitchen that Emma had wanted to renovate with stolen money. The house felt different with a teenager in it. Less fortress, more home. Music drifted from Sophia's room as she video chatted with friends from her old school. My phone rang, Grandmother Helen. "I heard about the sentencing. How are you holding up?" "Honestly, I'm relieved and tired and ready to move forward." "That's my granddaughter. And how's my great-granddaughter settling in?" "Playing music too loud and leaving shoes everywhere. It's wonderful." Helen laughed. "Normal teenage chaos. Healing already. I'm proud of you both. When can you visit? Sophia wants to meet you." "Next month. I'll bring photo albums. The real family history, not the sanitized version your parents peddled." After we hung up, I found Sophia in the living room doing homework on the couch. "This is weird," she said without looking up. "Good weird, but weird. 6 months ago, I was recording my parents' crimes. Now I'm doing algebra in the house they tried to steal. Life's weird sometimes, but we adapt. Are you okay, like really okay? You lost your whole family." "I didn't lose them. I chose to stop enabling them. And I didn't lose my whole family. I kept the parts worth keeping. You, Grandma Helen, even Aunt Diane in a way." "And the house," she added with a small smile. "You kept the house." "We kept the house," I corrected. "This is your home now, too." She went back to her homework, and I watched her for a moment. This child who'd chosen truth over comfort, who'd helped expose her parents' crimes, who'd lost everything and somehow remained kind. The house that had started as my solitary achievement had become something else, a refuge for family members brave enough to break cycles, First me, now Sophia, maybe others eventually. My phone buzzed with a notification. The first restitution payment had been deposited. $60,000 returned from hidden accounts built on others' losses. I stared at the number, waiting to feel vindicated. Instead, I just felt sad. All that destruction for money that had been there all along. All those relationships shattered for numbers and accounts. But then Sophia laughed at something on her phone, and the sadness lifted slightly. Life was continuing. Healing was happening. The cycle was broken. I closed my banking app and opened the family calendar instead. Therapy appointments, school events, Grandma Helen's visit, a new kind of family scheduling, replacing the old chaos of emergency loans and guilt trips. "Hey, Aunt Cassie," Sophia called from the living room. "Can we paint my room this weekend? Maybe that teal color you mentioned." "Of course, we'll get supplies tomorrow." "Cool. And maybe we can finally use that guest room I invited Grandma Helen to stay with us instead of a hotel." "That sounds perfect." And it did. The house I'd bought for solitary peace becoming a multi-generational home, but on my terms with chosen family, built on truth instead of manipulation. The criminals were in prison. The victims were getting restitution. The teenager was doing homework. The aunt was planning painting projects. It wasn't the family I'd grown up with, but it was the family I'd chosen. And that made all the difference. 1 year after buying my house, I stood in the backyard watching Sophia and her friends set up for her 14th birthday party. String lights twinkled in the trees I'd planted myself, and the sound of teenage laughter filled spaces that had once echoed with anger and betrayal. "Need help with those?" I called, seeing them struggle with a banner. "We got it, Aunt Cassie," Sophia called back, then whispered something that made her friends giggle. Normal teenage secrets, the kind that didn't involve recording fraud or choosing between parents and truth. "She's thriving," a voice said beside me. Grandmother Helen had arrived early, as was her habit now during her monthly visits. At 93, she moved carefully, but with purpose, her eyes sharp as ever. "She really is. Honor roll debate team even trying out for soccer next season." "And you thriving?" I considered the question. My job had welcomed me back after the forced leave, my reputation actually enhanced by how I'd handled the family crisis. Morrison Investments appreciated employees who could weather storms professionally. I'd even been promoted, senior analyst now with a team of my own. "I'm peaceful," I said finally. "Is that the same as thriving?" Sometimes peace is the greatest success, dear, especially after war. We went inside where the kitchen smelled of homemade lasagna, Sophia's choice for birthday dinner. She'd learned to cook over the past year, finding comfort in creating nurturing meals so different from the chaos she'd known. Mail came. Sophia handed me a stack, then paused. "There's one from the federal prison." My stomach tightened. Letters from my parents arrived monthly, all following the same pattern. Updates on their prison life, mentions of counseling insights, carefully worded attempts at reconciliation. I read them, but hadn't responded yet. "Want me to put it in your office?" Sophia asked gently. She knew the letters affected me, though I tried to hide it. "No, I'll look at it later. Today's about you." The doorbell rang, and soon the house filled with teenagers. Sophia's new friends mixed with cousins from Brad's side. Diane had kept her promise about maintaining connections. Even the twins were there, driven up for their sister's special day. I watched from the kitchen as Sophia opened presents, her face bright with the uncomplicated joy that had been impossible a year ago. She'd adapted remarkably, throwing herself into school and friendships with the determination of someone who'd learned life could change instantly. "Cassie," Diane appeared at my elbow. "Can we talk for a minute?" We stepped onto the front porch, away from teenage chaos. "I wanted to thank you again," she began. "The twins are doing so well, and it's because Sophia blazed the trail. Knowing their sister is thriving gives them hope." "How are they handling the prison visits?" "We go monthly. It's hard, but the counselor says maintaining connection is important as long as it's healthy. Brad's different. Prison and losing everything humbled him. He's taking accountability. And Emma. Diane's face tightened. Less so. She still sees herself as a victim of circumstances, but she's trying especially for the girls. Maybe that's enough for now. Maybe. She paused. The twins want to spend part of summer here, if that's okay. Sophia mentioned you might be taking a vacation together. We're thinking about it. Sophia's never seen the ocean properly. She's lucky to have you. We're lucky to have each other. As evening fell and parents collected teenagers, I found myself alone with Sophia and Helen in the living room. The detritus of a successful party surrounded us. Empty pizza boxes scattered wrapping paper, the banner now drooping slightly. "Good birthday," I asked. "The best," Sophia said firmly. "Last year I didn't even have a party. Mom said we couldn't afford it, but now I know they had money hidden away. This year, this was real." "Everything here is real," Helen said. "Real love, real support, real boundaries. That's what makes it home." Later, after Helen had retired to the guest room and Sophia was video chatting with friends about the party, I finally opened the letter from federal prison. My mother's handwriting hadn't changed, still precise, controlled, but the words were different. "Dear Cassandra, the counselor says I should write without expecting responses, that the act of truth-telling is its own purpose. So here's truth I see now what we did. Not just the fraud, that was criminal, but what we did to you, to your spirit, to your trust. That was monstrous. I raised you to be independent, then punished you for succeeding. I taught you to work hard, then tried to steal the fruits of your labor. I said family came first while putting greed above love. Prison gives you time to think. I think about the house, not wanting it anymore, but what it represented. You achieving something we couldn't. Instead of pride, we felt envy. Instead of celebrating, we schemed. That's on us, on me. I don't expect forgiveness. The counselor says that's not mine to demand or even request. But I need you to know you did the right thing. Stopping us saved us from ourselves, even if we couldn't see it then. Your father struggles more with acceptance, but he's trying. We're both in therapy, real therapy, not the manipulation tactics we used to call emotional intelligence. Be well, be happy, be free of us until you're ready to not be if that day ever comes. All my love, the real kind this time, Mom." I set the letter down with shaking hands. It was the accountability I'd demanded but never expected to receive. No excuses, no blame shifting, just acknowledgement of harm done. "Aunt Cassie." Sophia stood in the doorway. "You okay?" "Yeah, sweetie, just processing." Mom's letter different this time. "Your grandmother, and yes, very different." She sat beside me, teenager wisdom beyond her years. "My therapist says change is possible but not guaranteed. Maybe she's actually changing." "Maybe. Would you want to see her eventually?" Sophia thought carefully. "Not yet, maybe not ever, but I'm glad she's trying to change even if it's too late for us. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense." "Are you going to write back?" "I don't know. Maybe when I have something to say beyond, 'I hear you.'" That might be enough, knowing you hear her. When had this child become so wise? But then trauma grew wisdom like forced fruit, sweet but season stolen. "Thank you for the party." Sophia hugged me suddenly. "For everything. For choosing me when it cost you everyone else." "I didn't lose everyone. I found the ones who mattered." She went to bed and I sat in my kitchen, our kitchen, thinking about beginnings. The house purchase that started everything, the family explosion that revealed everything, the year of rebuilding that changed everything. Tomorrow, Sophia had a debate tournament. Next week, Helen would visit again. Next month, maybe a vacation to the coast. Simple plans that felt miraculous after the chaos we'd survived. I thought about my family in prison learning truths they'd avoided for decades. My parents facing their choices without escape into new schemes. Emma confronting the cost of entitlement. Brad understanding consequences. Maybe they'd emerge better people. Maybe they'd return to old patterns. Either way, their journey was no longer mine to manage. My journey was here in this house that had cost me a family but given me a future, with a teenage niece who chose truth over comfort, with a grandmother who'd blazed the trail of independence, with friends who'd stood by me during the worst year of my life. The security system I'd installed in panic was barely used now. The fortress had become a home. The empty rooms had filled with life. The silence had given way to teenager music and grandmother stories and the peculiar peace of chosen family. I pulled out my laptop and started typing. Dear Mom, I hear you. When I'm ready to say more, I will. For now, know that Sophia is thriving. The house is full of love. We're okay. Cassandra. Short, honest, bounded, like all healthy communication should be. As midnight approached on this anniversary of sorts, I walked through my house one more time. The living room where Emma had demanded entry, the kitchen where I'd discovered fraud, the office, now Sophia's sanctuary, the guest room where Helen stayed, bringing wisdom and perspective. Every room held memories of battle and recovery, but more importantly, every room held promise of futures, unencumbered by the past. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. Hi, this is Amy from your mom's counseling group. She doesn't know I'm reaching out. I just wanted to say your story gives us hope. Those of us trying to break family cycles of abuse, financial, emotional, all of it. Thank you for being strong enough to say no. You saved more than yourself. I set the phone aside, touched but tired of being anyone's inspiration. I'd just been trying to keep a house, not start a movement. But maybe that's how all movements began. One person saying no, one boundary held despite the cost, one cycle broken for the next generation. I locked the doors. Regular locks, now the extreme security no longer needed. The house settled around me with familiar creaks and sighs, home sounds, safe sounds, earned sounds. 1 year ago, I'd bought a house in secret thinking I was just securing shelter. Instead, I'd started a revolution. Quiet, personal, but revolution nonetheless. And tomorrow it would continue. With birthday thank you notes and debate tournaments and teenage noise and grandmother visits and all the beautiful mundane moments of a life reclaimed. The family who'd tried to steal my house had given me something priceless instead. The knowledge that I could survive anything, choose family wisely, and build a life worth defending. In that gift, wrapped in pain but tied with truth, I found my new beginning. What would you do if your family felt entitled to everything you'd worked for? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting what's rightfully yours? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps me share more stories of people standing up for themselves against family manipulation. And if you know someone who might need to hear that it's okay to set boundaries with toxic family members, please share this video with them. Thank you for listening to my journey. Remember, sometimes the family we choose is stronger than the family we're born into. Stay strong, trust your instincts, and never apologize for protecting what you've rightfully earned. Until next time, take care of yourselves.